Hey there, everyone. Another good evening to you all. I'm Adam from Dice Scum.
I'm Tech Priest, also from Dice Scum. I've had a couple of shots of a very, very good vodka, a rice vodka, as the subject tonight will be the Capellan Confederation.
Meanwhile, I decided to channel my inner handling of dealing with House Liao by essentially being out of it. I don't know, just the whole day I've been exhausted, and this includes right now. I could totally just flop over and nap, but that may be actually poisons that the kind house gave me to prevent this from being released. I don't know. Insert crazy conspiracy here. So I'm going to be out of it, and it's mostly going to probably be tech that explains this to you.
And it'll be me moving kind of quickly because Adam is a bit out of it.
I woke up in a puddle of my own sweat, and I don't think it's a fever, but my body's acting like it has one. So with that in mind, here's the cover for the classic book. I think I have the new book listed twice, and I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, the old book listed twice. There's two of these. There's two for. There's one basically for every house. Battletech has a long-running series, much like 40k. It's like, oh, I've got the Space Marine Codex. Yeah, well, what edition? But Battletech's got a few updates because as the timelines
And by
moved on.
updates, you mean required updates because, well, copyright. What dat?
Oh, actually, it's because the timelines advanced so much.
And I accidentally gave the old one twice. That's fine. The I'll get a new one later.
The new one is designed to be compatible with like the newer RPG system and a few other things.
It also removes some pictures you can't use anymore.
Yeah, that was one of the main things.
So I'm looking at the logo of the Capellan Confederation. I very much like. I don't know why it's just the arm and the sword, but fair enough.
It's very reminiscent of like the old Soviet, like, a man with a hammer.
Yeah, but that's usually propaganda art, not.
Not like you don't put that on your flag usually.
Oh, this one's a shorter book. Wow, it's
This
noticeably
is
shorter.
it's only about 150 pages.
Wow, even the writers don't care. Sorry, House Liao, it's not our fault.
How But I think part of that is because House Liao is just a very weird house
I'm
in
noticing the
terms of
casts, so yeah, that's different.
there's a lot to say about it and a lot that's interesting about it, but there's not a lot of like you don't have to go in as much with like the Free Worlds League where there's all these bunch of these little micro states inside of it, right? Or with the Federated Suns where you've got this rich kind of
Well,
like
the rich
pre
history of being the main, kind of the equivalent of the Blood Angels back in the day, or the Ultramarines now.
yeah, like this sort of rich like, oh, these guys are like a bit of a democracy, like all that, and how does that work and
Well,
all
on
that.
top of that, these guys are the ones that you're most likely going to field on the army because they're kind of the point of view that you're seeing in most of the books.
Yes, the Capellan Confederation is it's not a state with very complicated politics. It's
Mainly
a state with a
because
complicated
complicated.
social system,
Well, also
but it's
because.
not as
Oh, okay.
sorry. It's I was about to like finish. It's not a state with complicated politics. It's a state with a complicated social system,
I was
and
just
even then, it's not super complicated.
I was just gonna say that well, it's not complicated problems because those problems get disappeared.
Oh yes,
Sorry about that.
they. This is also the first time that they talk about any of this. They also note that this is actually part of this, at least, is actual Capellan material from there. And as the introduction states, as prepared by Adal Corvin, project leader for House Liao documentation of the Comstar archives, this is the summary of his material obtained over the last 3 years. And whenever a conclusion reached by their investigators cannot be established by hard data, he takes responsibility for the position being presented, and that any explanations, elaborations, whatever, are put in parentheses and labeled editor. Simple as that.
Yep.
And
And
then the current situation as of 3026, 3025.
they're apparently considered the weakest of the five major houses at the moment, which must have stung to write down, but hey, they did it.
Well, more accurately, this is what Comstar thinks.
Fair enough.
Which, uh, And it's true. They're
Capellans did nothing wrong, never ever. Exactly.
exactly. Well done,
Exactly.
citizen.
Saint Ives is a myth.
Saint Ives is part of Capella and always is part of Capella. It is one state with two governments.
Capellan Confederation #1, Saint Ives #4.
There is actually a free Ives joke book that was put out, Free Saint Ives.
Amazing.
Uh,
So,
but we'll
so yeah,
cover
they're
Saint Ives
considered the
later.
weakest, at least from Comstar points of view. And
And the reason for this is because they really can't mount an offensive at this point.
because they kind of pissed off all of the people around them, and or are in an alliance of convenience because of the big global shift in power, because two of the great houses have unified, which has never
And now,
happened
and then the
before.
other, yeah, and then the other three are kind of like looking at each other
They
like,
have
can
to
we
deal with
ally?
that. Like, I guess we
Like they're
ally
kind of,
against these.
I guess we ally. So then it kind of comes into the fact is that the Confederation really isn't a gigantic police state. While
There's a
it,
powerful police state element to it. It's
but it's not
only
really
at the higher levels. The
like
lower
like
castes usually are fine.
yeah, it's not the average citizen for the most part that has to fear the police state. It's the nobility.
Oh yeah, because what's a normal citizen at worst gonna do? Join a mercenary band? Oh no.
Oh no! Oh no! They're talking shit about a noble. Oh no! And it's like, yeah, you're as long as you're not talking shit about the big guy, it's
And
fine.
even then, you just
Actually,
send the
they'd
guy to get
rather,
rid of him. It's fine.
yeah, and hell, they'd rather you be talking shit about your local guy than the big cheese.
So it's really just the nobles that have to worry about the knives.
Oh, and oh boy, are there knives! There are lots and lots of knives. So the modern is the Capellan Defense Force. Well, it was the original. Now it's the Capellan Confederation Armed Forces, so the CCAF. It's also notable that they are very Soviet
Yeah, I'm
in that
noticing
the
30 line regiments, 15 reserve. They
yep
go into details about, like, already at the start. This kind of gives you an idea. They are heavily focused on their army.
yeah they well, to be fair, like they're actually one of the smaller forces. They don't have the ability to fight 1v1 either of their neighbors at this point. They've taken too many losses. That's why they have so many mercenary units. And in fact, they have one of the most famous mercenary commands, McKellen's Armored Cavalry, as basically a house unit, also known as the Big Mac.
Well, the reason they had to is I'm noticing something called the infamous revolt of the Capellan
Capellan
Hussars.
Hussars. Yeah, the one of the things
Another
is that
Soviet thing.
The Capellans are very paranoid about rebellions of the military, for very obvious reasons. Now that said, there are some incredibly loyal house units, like the Red Lancers or the Death Commandos, but the problem is that these units are often hamstrung by the fact that, much like the Soviet military, the army is very much monitored by the political class because they want to make sure that everyone's loyal to the state. Which means that if you are an independent thinking Capellan officer, you're probably going to die. This doesn't mean that there aren't independent thinking Capellan officers, but they have to tread a very careful line where they can't really voice that.
Pass blame to immediate official below or local to you. It just works. Yeah, and that's the other
Yeah.
thing that you have to worry about in a Soviet-style governance system. One of the quickest ways to get rid of a person you don't like is to just, if you're already being looked at by secret police, just plain evidence on them.
hmm
And a military officer that talks a lot of shit and ignores your commands as the local noble, well, they're pretty easy to just pin the blame on.
It's also notable that military success will give you is evidence
Is
of
a
political
double-sided.
dependability.
It's also a double-sided sword.
Yeah, it will give you more attention, but if you're looking politically sketchy, launching an assault is actually not a bad thing to do. Because if you succeed, congratulations, you've proven your loyalty to the state. If you fail, you're probably going to die in the assault anyway.
And that is the
But
biggest problem, is that inflexibility.
yes, It's also notable that they have a thing called the warrior houses, which we'll get into later. It's very similar, sort of, to a lot of elements within the Kuridan state, but they're not Japanese. They're more.
Near
I,
Eastern philosophies, so like your,
I
I guess, Wuxia monks.
that's actually a really good analogy. It's like the military, like militant Buddhist monks almost with battle mechs.
I mean, since these guys are supposedly based on super evil, Soviet Union communist China, I kind of figured.
Yeah, it, that's kind of where it is. They're kind of neat. And then they
Capellans were
talk about.
founded by Chinese Ted Kaczynski. I'm
Yeah, we'll
thinking
get into that.
face.
Well,
Oh,
let's get ahead. So the next, there's the political objectives. This guy, I like this book. The one thing I like about this book is that it gives you a, like, if you don't need to read anything else, you can just read this intro section. You can get a pretty good idea of what's happening.
it also gives you a great idea on why you can't trust a Capellans at all.
Yes, it really does. They've long feared territorial division. Perhaps there's some combined action of House Merrick and the Federated Sun.
Well, also there's
Like
just
House Merrick would
elements.
cooperate.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, House Merrick does own part of their systems that they want back
That is true.
because
But
they both
like,
have claims on him. Although Merrick's
yeah,
are noticeably firmer,
no, Merrick's will notice will be firmer,
and they
and
have him right now.
yeah, they control the Duchy of Andurian. Uh, Maximilian Liao is actually financed Anton Merrick, as noted before, and is remember Michael Hasek-Davian from the Federated Sons book, the guy in the Crucis March?
Oh yeah, he's also, isn't he, the one most likely to cause a civil war?
Yes. Guess who's has agents working on him?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
It's actually kind of a good thing we covered both.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah, their big
Capellans
thing
are in
is,
between both of them.
and their big foe, like Merrick's an issue, but really it's Davian because they're
It's
just so
Davian.
close.
It's always Davian. It's been Davian forever. As our picture showed, this part of the sphere has been basically fighting since the Age of War and never stopped. Like the Free Worlds League and the Lyrans, like they'll trade occasionally, they'll do all that, but like the Confederation, the Combine, and the Suns, it is knives out all the time. It's like this section of space is like the Simpsons meme, with the two monkeys fighting, and it's just like the Capellans and then everyone else, and everybody else is cheering them on in the periphery.
Speaking of religion, I never understood how much Comstar's beliefs are accepted outside of itself.
They
Sometimes it seems like
really
only they believe it, but other times commoners do.
Comstar is weird in that they definitely have a religious influence on the local population when they're one of the stronger forces around, but otherwise people just think that they're weirdos.
Fears
It's
of
like, yeah,
territorial deviation. Laughs in Hans Davian.
oh,
Lyran. It's
after
not Lyran. Lyrans are the frog psychics from Animorphs.
oh yeah, you're
Lyrans are
right.
the German people who are corrupt
Lyrans.
but love
It is
trade.
Lyrans. Lyrans is like lyrium from Dragon Age.
No, it's the
Lyrans
psychic frog
drop
people from
atlases.
Animorphs.
Wait, there's so many aliens in Animorphs.
They're the
I know we're
psychic
getting
forum frog
distracted.
people.
We're only 7 pages in, and we're already talking about something completely different.
Hey, that's every book. Don't worry, House
Oh,
Liao.
okay.
We've done this
Okay.
before. It is not your fault.
So Maximilian Liao is essentially attempting to do something called the Liao Doctrine.
By the way,
which
there he is, and he kind of reminds me of the worst Mace Windu art I've ever seen. Kind of. He doesn't look human.
Yeah,
He's not a
he looks like
person.
Mace Windu if you gave him a mullet.
He looks like he's degenerated to like Homo erectus, and you put a very good fucking wig on him. Doesn't he look like a
He
primordial
does.
man?
He looks a little bit like Yoda and Mace Windu had like a weird love child that got actual hair.
His
Yes,
hair's on.
fight
It's
Hans.
a wig. It's on crooked.
Yes, I must fight Hans Davian for the good of the Force.
His hair is crooked, so you know it's a wig. It's a wig.
So Maximilian is.
I'm sorry.
possibly-
Your face.
80s Battletech art, ladies and gentlemen. Adam has officially lost it. This isn't even the silliest art in the book yet.
Oh.
There's some sillier art in this one.
Homo erectus Paul Atreides. Yes! He looks like that. He looks like the scientist depiction of Australopithecus. No.
I
He's not
think
that devolved. He looks like a Homo erectus skull given flesh.
Oh, chat. Anyone listening to this and not reading chat is going to be wondering why Adam's losing his mind. Chat has compared our good friend here to like one of those reconstructions you see in a museum. If this was the the Joe Rogan podcast, he'd go on about how like a gorilla or a chimpanzee would be like really jacked, and then go on a 5-minute diatribe about like what sort of like weird paleo strength diet that our human ancestors were on.
Sahelanthropus, the day Liao learns to walk upright.
I love that he's got a little look at his little neck thing that's penciled in there. It's his name so that they don't forget him.
It's his name.
It's his little dog collar.
He has a fucking he has a dog collar. Oh god. I just wanted to read about the economy, but this has already become not my favorite book because I haven't read enough of it, but it's fun.
This is already fun. Okay, so the fact is
they have a strong economy.
They actually have a very strong economy.
They have
People forget that. Liao actually does have a decent internal economy. The main problem is that
they're the smallest of the five because they constantly pick fights and a lot of it gets bled into war.
Their export base is also smaller because they generally try to export quality goods.
I mean, it's one of the only ways to counter the other two merchant
because they can't compete with them by quantity, so they decide to compete with them by quantity. Now, this also leaks into some of the stuff.
Capellan do. Sorry.
Capellan see, Capellan do. Capellan lose all of his worlds too.
I lost my Liao's Odo. Rather than Bored Apes, they're Bored Liao NFTs.
Bored Liao NFTs. No, Hans Davian, you can't just right-click my systems.
So the Confederation has a lot of corporations. They actually have a genuinely strong industry. It's just they can't rely on exports because you're trying to win a mercantile war with the Lyrans and the Free Worlds League. That's not happening.
You're not. Yeah, you just can't compete with them by volume. The
other
issue,
they do industry.
Yes, they do a lot of high levels of industry. They actually do some of the better finished projects in the league. Like Ceres Metals is a very big company. They'll also export battle mechs to some degree to mercenary companies.
And on top of that, since they produce quality, they actually, when they embargo someone, it kind of means something.
It actually hurts.
And because of their murder boner for the Federated Sons, they've had a centuries-long embargo on them.
Anyway, so how they start is they're not actually Chinese, at least at first. How they start is a guy in Nepal named Elias Jung Liao. This is in 2188 or so.
Well, there's three worlds. There's Liao, Capella, and Tikhonov.
Yeah, the Tikhonov. Those are like that's earlier. The real thing is House Liao, which is what we're focusing on. Because remember, Battletech setting, there was the second Soviet Civil War in 2015. There's a few other things that happened.
And they actually give like a shaky connection to some person in modern times, and it's really cursed.
Yeah.
Elias.
It's kind of cursed. Elias. So, Elias...
The Hong Kong Free State. Oh no.
So, what they say is what happened in this is that I think there was a reunification by Taiwan, and then there's like a weird, because there's the offshore Chinese Republic, and then like a bunch of the Hong Kong Free State and like this other stuff. They don't really go into too much detail, but basically Taiwan invaded Hong Kong, which was still independent at the time. And
By the way, he was
Who
a
fucking
crank.
knows?
He was a crank.
Yeah, he was a crank. He was a crank philosopher who then fled to Nepal with his wife's family and started a guerrilla movement.
Yeah, it was overrun by the offshore Chinese Republic.
Yeah,
So
as I said,
Taiwan invaded, and he, he becomes
fled to Nepal. He studied at Oxford and Hong Kong University. But when
the New
he
World Disciples.
yes, when he
He became a
appeared,
cult leader.
yes, which is why people are like, "What the fuck happened? Did he have like a weird religious conversion? Did he start suffering from schizophrenia?" But like the relatively conservative Eastern politician is completely gone now as a radical philosopher extremist advocating global anarchy as the only course of action
So
left of
this
mankind.
man went from a fairly staid conservative, like neolib politician, to crawling out of the mountains of Nepal with a fucking death cult, screaming about the eternal revolution of like anarcho-communism.
This man must have found like the same sort of crack that Posidus was on
I
and
think
just
I think what
snorted it.
happened was he had ayahuasca, which if you have a here's the thing with hallucinogenics and with even pot actually,
You need to have good people
if
around
your
you.
family has genes for schizophrenia, it can knock your ass into schizophrenia even if you don't have it.
It's also a bad idea to take those without having people around you that
Which
you
he
can
did not.
trust.
He did
Which he
not.
obviously did not.
I bet Elias thinks Jews came from space and or another dimension.
Yeah. Uh, a lot of reality altering drugs. If you understand what's happening to you, it can be an interesting trip. If you don't, and if you're not in relative control of your environment,
Or on
you
top of
can go
that,
fucking insane.
if there's something about you you don't like, but you don't like to think about it, oh boy.
Oh boy, you're gonna have a bad trip. Basically, you gotta be in the right state of mind before you do any of those sort of drugs. Otherwise, it's a bad time,
Wait,
kids.
Chinese Posidus. No, not quite a Posidus. He's
Well, he did try to start a campaign of terror.
that's not necessarily Posidism though.
He killed 26 heads of state, 14 alliance parliament representatives, 16 economic and political advisors, 41 associated bureaucrats, 78 scientists by microton grenades, which became a signature of his disciples. So he also destroyed 3 city blocks in Beijing with a fusion bomb.
Not okay, maybe he is a Posidus. Does he think that aliens will
He
come from
he
space?
was then fought the Chinese Republic commandos attempted to take him out. So I guess that China became a republic, and then there's now
Right.
2 Chinese republics. Okay, I mean, why not? And then he fled out to
Oh, I just realized what these dirty motherfuckers did.
what?
This is essentially the plotline of Khan Nooney and Singh, if you think about it.
Oh no, you're gonna go into Gundam, aren't you?
No, Star Trek.
Oh shit!
This is
Oh shit!
this
Yeah,
is
right. It is
essentially the
Khan.
eugenics war. This is Khan,
This is fucking Khan.
most politically tolerant Chinese philosopher. True, he could have killed hundreds more. He just
Yeah, that's
chose
true.
not to.
He's I mean, when you consider him on the scale of the death of like your average caused by your average Chinese philosopher that goes insane, kind of on the low end, you know.
I mean,
It's only about 100 people.
he also only destroyed 3 city blocks in
Oh
Beijing.
yeah,
Those are rookie numbers.
rookie fucking numbers.
Oh, sorry about bumping the mic, guys.
This is no Hong Kwang. This is no Wang Mang. This isn't like that sort of level of absolute fucking insanity.
I don't know why you think that House Liao's was going to be boring. This is hilarious.
I
Everyone else
consider it.
is founded in a more sane and normal way. The Free Worlds League was like 4 different states combining together in a trade pact after an agreement. House Davian, that formed mainly from the core of, I forget, what was it, Avalon or something?
The New Avalon and the Crucis Pact.
Basically fused out of that and then just kind of get into power. No, this fucking thing, founded by essentially an anarchist Khan Nooney Singh. This is great. Look,
So
by the way, this is the face of the man who invented a nuclear bomb that could detonate in limited degrees.
Just but yeah, fighting. Yeah, he fought a bunch of commandos in the Himalayas for a while, along with armored regiments, which I think is just amazing.
Yeah. And
And
he managed to smuggle his children aboard. Literally, it's the Botany Bay, a jump ship
yeah,
bound for deep space. It's the fucking Botany Bay.
but yeah,
Decisive Liao victory.
so he died pretty young. Well, not well, pretty young for this era,
He
at
was
the age of
violently
61.
executed as a terrorist while his
He
children
actually
fled.
wasn't. He escaped to a new planet in 2199, completely unordinary. He renamed the planet in honor of his dead wife, the Cynthiana. Uh, and it was a depressing as fuck place for a while. But they started to breed horses and cattle and sheep and sell meat and kind of had a
Not just
decent
normal
life.
meat though, processed meat. They
Yeah.
sold bologna.
I want to note he went from major politician to religious sect leader to wanted international terrorist
To the
to
owner of Oscar Mayer Wieners.
yeah, the American
This
dream.
man's odyssey is amazing.
This man, I will have to admit, Elias Liao is probably one of like the underrated characters of BattleTech. Just absolutely crazy trajectory of life. It's like the one. It's like the one student that ended up becoming a national hero of Armenia from California.
Or that one German postman who became a scam psychiatrist starting in Eastern Germany, remember?
Oh
He was
yeah.
just like a mailman who decided to fake being a doctor and eventually became head of East Germany's psychiatry department.
What a mad lad. So anyway, when he dies, his uh,
I think it was probably David.
grandson Victor took
Victor.
over. David was, I think, one of his sons. Uh, and they renamed the colony to Liao to honor Elias because, well, Elias had kind of changed his ways.
Like
Uh,
seriously, he went from killing them all to starting a hot dog company. That's pretty amazing.
I mean, he's an administrative genius, like administrative genius, politician, terrorist, and an anarchist that ends his life as a respected meat seller in international space. What the actual fuck?
He's. I will say that even if this book is weaker than normal, the presence of Elias Liao, while I may forget his name, I will not forget his saga.
It's insane. Yeah. So they talk about the nearby planets and all that and the changing times. And really, the reason I consider this weaker is because the I think the Davian book does a better job of it explaining this time.
Yeah, this one's kind of, I think, assuming you already have at least the Davian
You've
book.
already read it. If you hadn't read this before the Davian book, you'd be a little bit like, okay. But they talk about like ice ships being a big deal,
Like
which
they
again makes
also
sense.
don't mention like why Terra is starting to collapse, which they do in Davian's book.
Yeah. I want to note that the audience, the governor, should give you an idea of what's happening as Victor Liao is recognized as a Terran governor, and if a little while later, he's the Terrans are kind of there's an ambassador, and his last act as a Terran governor in this critical moment in the history of the Alliance, uh, Victor Liao did something very very special. He cut the motherfucker's head off with a katana.
Here we go. Yep. Personally beheaded the Terran ambassador. Big lore question from the chat, if you're wondering, from Piak. But
Yes.
when Battletech states are officially admitting their monarchies, and which are still pretending to be republics and democracy, oh no, none of the concept of a pure democracy has been dead for centuries at this point, Ak.
Well, it depends on the planet.
On the planet,
As
it's
a
fine, but like the actual governance, just it's because of how faster than light communication kind of worked before they kind
yeah,
of figured it
before
out.
the HPG network. Yeah, before the HPG network, it's that you needed so much local autonomy that like and to get votes collected from a large star system could take months,
So
and I do mean
some form of
months.
feudalism became very popular.
Basically, yeah, it became popular because it was just a good way to manage these colonies because you needed that sort of centralized power structure
Well,
with local
decentralized
autonomy.
power
Well,
and
centralized
kind
at
of a
the
pillar
local
system.
level, I guess.
And also because you're out in the boonies and you can kind of set up your whatever. By the way,
There
if
were
you're
plenty of
wondering,
people
yes,
that
the
just
man
declared
covered in blood.
themselves. Yeah,
That's Victor.
and there were also plenty of people that just declared themselves nobles.
Yeah, I mean, because if you just settle a planet, like let's say you are, because there's
You are
apparently
Jeff
a
Bezos.
Mongolian planet.
You are Jeff Bezos from Mongolia, and you are rich enough to.
You cornered the market in glue, in horse glue. And
Yeah,
because of that, you decide to buy a planet because this is the great expansion. You can do whatever the hell you want. And you take you and your followers, your company to that planet. No one's going to give a shit if you then declare yourself Khan.
yeah.
As long as you keep
I mean,
providing the glue.
look at Elias. He's a wanted international terrorist for
But they
crimes
left
against
him
humanity.
alone when he
They left
escaped.
him alone, and he became a respected horse merchant. Like, no one gives a shit. I'm actually surprised there wasn't like a kill team that arrived on that.
There
I just
probably was, but I'm just envisioning him selling them hot dogs.
just lay happy hot dog merchant has arrived.
But yeah,
So
this man Victor right here, who looks
Victor,
like he has
I want to say
powerful
this:
Senpaku eyes. By the way, look at the serial killer eyes.
all the Liaos are kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, their founder.
Their founder's a motherfucking schizophrenic, yeah, but like Victor Liao is one of the things where he had the guy held up for an hour as the demanders demanding Liao whether or not that the people the armed guards were the soldiers that he was denying the alliance or whatever else, and then he's just ignoring the guy, and then finally the ambassador starts to reach for a dagger that he has.
Because he's ignoring me. Stop ignoring me!
And Victor just fucking takes his head off with the katana he's been polishing this entire time, just waiting for the motherfucker to do something to justify it.
It's also really funny because I think this was in response to him just inventing his own funny money.
I think it might have been, yeah.
Because they mentioned that during Victor's time, they actually stopped taking Terran credits, and I just have the envision that he invented his own coin, probably with his face on it, because Victor kind of looks like the guy who would do that.
Yeah. So it's also important to note that the refusal to support the alliance in the Rim Wars kind of ends the alliance, and basically the next couple pages are just sort of like, oh yeah,
Describing
we're kind of
how Terra fell the fuck apart.
fell the fuck apart. Oh no! And then we get this the off the shelf war, which is an interesting bit on page 11.
Yep, because we're skipping past the Queen of
We're
Hearts.
gonna skip past Elias because like I don't care about Arena and all that. Like
Irena
come the
is
fuck
not
on.
as interesting. She basically played the overbearing Chinese mother-in-law who tries to plot out the marriages of all of her children.
She also married several different men.
So Black
you
Widow,
know.
Chinese mom, desperately forcing you to figure out
Chinese
who you're
mom
gonna
in
marry.
an Otome game. No, Chinese Otome game mom, I guess. Okay, anyway. So Von Hesse decided to rent out his planet.
They had the ambassador pickled. Yeah, Victor's a psycho.
Victor's kind of psychotic, yeah.
There's So before George R. R. Martin, the fat gremlin, made his Game of Thrones books, and he decided to make the Targaryens the ones that are either one coin flip away from greatness or lunacy, Capellans were beating him years in advance. That's the thing about about the Liao. They're all crazy in some way, but whether or not they're functional, it's a kind of a coin flip.
I mean, even Mary Zhu Liao, who we'll not get to in this book, was kind of crazy and ignored his two kids fucking each other.
So the off-the-shelf war. So there's a guy named Albrecht von Hess, who I think might have been brought up earlier, but it doesn't matter.
He's a European businessman that managed to get to the Tikhonov Union. He founded his own armaments factory and immediately renamed the planet after himself.
Because he just made that much money.
You just do that.
Made that much bank.
And he decided that just making arms wasn't enough to satisfy his pocketbook. No, instead, he rented out his planet to people to fight on, to settle other issues.
He made a gladiator planet.
Yeah, well, more like a, how do I put it? Right? It's a bit like a fucking insanity thing where it's like he literally goes and he's like, so you guys have like, your armed forces, but you're worried about them getting
Just
blown out of the
shoot each
sky.
other on my
Come to New
planet.
Hessian, where I will give you a discount for multi-party, low-level combat actions, low-cost repair and recovery deals, package deals complete with your weapons for your military of choice. Come downtown and buy as much as you want.
I
Think you're
love
not
it.
going to match the competition? I'll offer you this entire brigade of Russian T-64s for free.
By the
Just
way, this was
sign here on the
actually
dotted line.
massively this was profitable as hell.
Oh yeah, it was incredibly profitable. It he basically gambled on war and
He
humanity's
won because he wasn't in the Free Worlds League or in the Lyran's Confederacy.
yeah. And
Not
in a solemn
Confederacy.
statement on the time,
What was it? Confederation? Federation?
Tikhonov Union, which would eventually become part of the Confederation. So
No, I mean, what was the Lyran one called again? Hegemony?
you're thinking of the Terran hegemony.
No, what's the thing they describe the Lyrans? Steiners.
Lyran Commonwealth.
Commonwealth. Thank you. I was confusing it with Confederacy because we're reading this book. Sorry about that,
Yeah.
guys.
So but yeah, there's a bunch of things that are already happening in the Alliance colonies. There's like the Nanking Collective that forms, the Chisholm Protectorate. All these states start forming, like the Sarna Supremacy.
Because again,
We
Terran's
discussed
falling
this about
apart.
five. We've discussed this twice already, and the other books go into a bit more detail.
So
So
no regrets, no surrender. So they go on about the Terrans trying to, get things back.
yeah, and more accurately, the amount of fighting that's happening in these areas and like in Sarna and all that, as they're leading up, they're kind of jumping around the timeline a bit, which is why I don't think this book is quite as good as
It's a
it's
little
like.
shaky because of that, and I think it's
And we
because.
get some more fantastic art
Well,
on the next page.
Okay. I was just gonna say it's because they assume you probably bought the House Davian book. All you need to know that out of the little statelets, the important parts that form the Confederation are the Capellan Republic, which is where it gets its name, Liao Republic, which is where the house came from, and Tikhonov, which is where their main industrial base came from.
There's also the Sarna Supremacy and a few others, but like those are the three kind of core ones, like the Chesterton Commonality. The Capellan hegemony eventually becomes the Confederation. The main thing though to remember is that the hegemony, technically speaking, was democratic. Then they kind of got together and realized that the Sarna Supremacy is kicking our fucking ass.
Because this is during the time of war, and there were a lot of little statelets that were like
That are going
that
at each
thumbnail
other like
perfectly
hell.
shows how House Liao was built.
Yeah,
By the way, yeah, that is some beautiful crackhead energy art.
that is some real crackhead energy. So then the Capellan Renaissance, we're just gonna skip over some of these early wars because it's literally like, so there's a few like fighting
So the
going on, and
Capellans
then
and the Capellans and Liao Republic banded together to kill these guys.
yeah, the Sarna Supremacy, and the Sarna Supremacy War between the Capellan Supremacy War between 2305 and 2309. It's basically like there's the Capellans have better troops, but they're not as fanatical. Then like
I'm just
there's a
trying to figure out
reoccupation.
how
Then
the
there's a
Capellan Republic unified.
it
Like,
it's literally like,
what had
oh,
Liao joined them rather than the other way? Was it just
if I
Sarna?
remember, it was probably because Sarna was around. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. It's kind of.
As I said, like this book is not as good. Like I said, it's the weakest because it
It just
really
kind of
is.
assumes
That
that you've read the other
you've
ones
read a lot of the other ones, yeah.
or
It
remember them.
yeah, it works fine. Like it's not a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that it can be really complicated, and we've read a lot of the. I having read all these books, going through this again, it's like, oh God, please.
So yeah, this is the Capellan Renaissance. This is where the kind of myth of the strong police state kind of came around, and actually why it became around, because they created an orderly society out of three different fucking states during this period.
Yeah, Yeah, eventually.
because finally the Capellans, Liao Republic, and Tikhonov conglomerate fused into three. I know it's not conglomerate, but whatever. I'm
That's
calling
not
it
quite
that.
yet. That's later on. That's part of the problem. The problem with the Age of War is it lasts like 300 fucking years. So like when we're talking about like
So this
all
is
of this
just the first
stuff,
two.
like yeah, this is just we're not even to like the 2400s when things get really interesting. This is like all the early border skirmishes. Jesus Christ. We haven't even gotten to fucking good old what's his name? McKenna fucking shit up on Terra. Like that's not even there yet.
Yeah, they're just going into basic detail about how these two fused and their seeds of destruction, like how
Yeah, like
there's a problem with exporting politics, I guess.
yeah. Anyway,
And that there were democratic values that I guess were corroding or something. Anyway, blood and gold, who cares?
I would go to like page 19 because we get some good art.
More wars, the Capellan Supremacy War, this is them again fighting against Sarna. And then comes the Free World League.
Yep. Fair Worlds League is getting involved. We talked a little bit about this. Then there's some more stuff happening with
A
like
secession
eventually.
war, the People's War from the Capellan
Yep.
Jaegers.
Yeah. Here we go. Capellan.
Whatever else the Capellans were concerned at the moment. So this is more problems, wars. More wars. Yeah, that's kind of the history of the Capellan Confederation.
Now
Ah,
it's
here we go. We're now at McKenna, I think.
yes. It took a while. Terror Resurgent.
There is a lot of wars in between where Liao Republic and hegemony combined into the Confederation of old.
Or new or whatever. The point being that there's a lot of fighting in this area, and then Capella lost her status as Galactic Librarian with the reemergence of Terra. Terra's now trading with everybody else, and Tikhonov, Liao, and Saint Ives are becoming very prominent worlds. And the
Because at this point they haven't combined yet, and by combined I mean been
also
absorbed together
Also,
into
the
one.
Terran hegemony is refusing to acknowledge the Capellan claims of their independent little states because of Victor Liao decapitated ambassador about 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, why not use that as the
Why not?
excuse?
Yeah.
By the way, here's
It-
the commander of the Capellan Hussars. They were all killed to a man, obviously,
I love
mainly
a
because of their
Tikhonov Mark IV a Tikhonov Mark IV laser pistol with infrared sights, effective to 300 yards. I I don't know why this has like they're saying that this is infrared sights, but it's like do they mean like little glow sights?
I like how it's a laser pistol, but it clearly has a barrel which fires a slug ammo.
It looks like that. Yeah, it's really like they didn't know. But I like his little outfit. I like the little like the wrappings around his legs and all that.
I like it because it reminds me of Alien.
It kind of does.
He looks like he's about to fight. He's about to fight a xenomorph on a long haul trucker freighter.
And ready on the next question. So here we go. The formation of the Capellan Confederation is actually in 2366, and we'll kind of get into that in a second. But
Well,
look at
before we do,
this.
here's another one. Here's a planetary diem in her full ceremonial
They'll
dress.
explain what that is. That's her datacom link, which doubles as a data store. So it's her phone. It's a future version of an iPhone.
This is what they thought the iPhone would look like.
They'd never even. I don't think was Apple even a company at this point.
In '88, yes, it was.
Okay.
I believe it was the Apple II, and I believe Apple III was just recently made.
Huh. Okay.
So the Tikhonov connection, this is kind of important, mainly because this is kind of the war that
Yeah. So they talk about how the fact is that the Capellan Tikhonov War is basically when the Capellans decide that it's about time to go and get better. So okay, the next page.
there's Diana's war.
Yeah.
By the way, I do really like the Capellan uniforms. I will give that while the book is weak, I do like their uniform design.
Oh yeah, Capellan uniforms are pretty stylish. Anyway, like there's a
Looks
lot of
like a
stuff talking
low
about.
budget 70s sci-fi. Yeah,
Yeah,
this was 80s
that
sci-fi.
that's this is BattleTech. Like there's a lot of low budget future the '80s shit going on
By the
here,
way, if
like
you're
how like a
wondering why
computer.
you see this Yor-looking hunter of the future motherfucker, that's a mech
That's a
pilot.
mech warrior. That's a mech warrior climbing out with a gun from a stricken mech, I think, because it looks like he's got the cooling suit on and everything, and no pants.
If you're wondering why they usually dress like they're buck ass naked, it's because cooling
Mechs get
system.
hot. Well, mechs
Let's
get very hot.
yeah, cooling systems don't really work too well anymore. And even in the old
The
systems, it was still kind of a bitch.
Yeah,
So anyway, yeah, there's the Great War with the Tikhonov, feeling the pinch. Then there's Tuckus takeover. We might have just skipped Tikhonov getting absorbed. We don't know.
we don't know. I think
No, no, no,
Tikhonov's
no, no.
attacking.
There's a
No,
stalemate
Tikhonov's
war.
trying to absorb.
No, there's a war between Sarna and Tikhonov. So what happened is Sarna tries to pick a fight with Tikhonov again. I think. There's a
Yeah,
reason this book was considered the weakest of them. Now you're kind of
yeah.
seeing why,
It's
viewers.
just literally a war,
And then
another
this
war,
war
a
happened.
war,
And then
and
this
then this
war
one.
happened.
It is literally, will you live in interesting times, and then we get into the editor's notes. So they start to talk about how the Capellans try to bring the Sarns, the Tikhonovs,
Is it the Eris
into the
crisis?
more like Tuckus takes over, which is I
Okay.
think the next
Thankfully,
page.
I was right there. I was right there. I just wasn't sure because after that is the Aris crisis. So yeah, Tuckus takes over.
So the Sarns are starting to get in here. There's like a bunch of political maneuvering bullshit
Because at the end of the
and
day, all these
tax
countries
stuff.
wanted what the others had.
Yeah, then finally, the Ars crisis is the thing that really causes the Confederation to sort of form, because Tuckus gets removed, and I love this Capellan security guy with his weird cattle prod baton.
Oh, is that the
Look at
next
this
page?
man. Yeah,
Look at
look at
him.
this dude.
He looks like he's on the set of Spaceballs, actually.
I know, right?
They might
I
have actually
love it.
designed it based on it.
He looks like I know he looks like he's a little overweight too, which just this is a space mall cop.
I'm just envisioning Tuckus Liao going, I'm surrounded by assholes, and this guy's
Yeah.
there.
Tucker's something else actually. I don't think he was a Liao. Uh, they get another like prime minister. Then finally, Franco Liao is like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to put my trade fleet on motherfucking like no, like I'm taking over this shit. Declare me emperor, basically.
Yep, because Eris demanded Liao's immediate arrest as a would-be dictator, but Liao's response was, "Yeah, I'm just gonna use my merchants to just immediately just crash our trade agreements, no
Crash our
survivors,"
economy with no survivors.
and that
Uh,
worked.
and that worked.
All because
And
Tuckus was removed.
and then here's the next bit of like yo art. Like I don't know why this is in this book, not the Dracon's Combine book. Like what is happening?
This is them
What is
reminding you that Capellans also are kind of Asian too.
I know, but it's like the Ferenco declares himself the new prime minister, and then declares commonality abolished. All of them are now part of the Confederation.
Yep.
And all problems are over in basically 2 minutes because he's declared himself dictator
And when Eris refused because,
with absolute
dictator,
power.
his response is
Yeah,
just to casually capture and kill him.
yeah.
Because this is the man who held their entire economy hostage, and they know
So
they can't do anything about that.
so then the Davians came over to try to take
Oh, that's
Liao.
actually what unified them. It was because
Yes,
the
it
Federated
was.
Sons were coming and saying, "Hi,
The
we're gonna
Federated
kick your
Sons are like
ass."
on the way, and it's like, oh fuck, oh fuck.
That's how they unified. Cappy Mall Cop, I could see it.
Yeah. Then Hell and Capella Prime. So the thing that do you want to know what Francis. Franco. If it was Francis, that
Fr-
would have been amazing.
Francis Liao is actually
Francis
Franco's
the
brother.
dictator. It's actually Franco. Yeah, Franco Liao the dictator does sound more like, oh, that sounds like a dictator.
Francis
But it's like
Liao sounds
it's
like he sells you insurance.
yeah, I know, right? So the Davian peacekeepers arrive on Capella after the Chancellor leaves with his wife. Invading commanders are puzzled at finding the capital's practically deserted by its citizens, and they start to set up shop. And then the new Confederation Navy shows up,
Mainly
swipes the
formed out of
transports and
Sarna and
supply
St.
ships
Ives.
out. Yeah, wipes it out of the way, and then Liao asks for them to surrender because now they're stuck on the planet. Well, it's
And you're
like,
starving.
and you're starving to death. And they're like, yeah, no, we got enough supplies to last a while.
Well, no,
You
not
don't
only
control your
that, but
capital.
that's the thing. The Davians fought.
We're on your capital, motherfucker. Like, you don't get to negotiate. Francis Liao is like, okay, fine, snaps his fingers. Orbital bombardment.
Of his capital.
Yes. The three hand-picked Davian regiments, the 3rd Aragon Lancers, the Findus Motorized Infantry, and Ilsen Commandos, along with more than
More than
2,000
2,000.
citizens
More
still
like
in the city.
20,000. Don't fucking lie.
Probably, yeah. And they're all dead. And this is why the Confederation Triangle has a black border on it. To commemorate the fact that they murdered their own citizen.
Yeah.
As their first action.
Like, keep in mind, Franco is
Oh
the
my
guy
God.
who openly said, "Yeah, if you don't make me chancellor, I'm crashing the economy. No survivors." Did they
Okay.
really fucking think he wouldn't glass his own capital?
Look at the next bit of art, by the way. When I said that this book has some fantastic 80s art. So here's a man with like a space full underfolder AK with the barrel assembly like flipped around a little bit,
Yeah.
like just shoved up.
I like how it has a pistol handle. That thing's gonna
And there
kick.
and then there's this guy just smiling. And then this chick with like a mole, and
This feels
I
like
don't
the
even
cover
know.
for a comic in the 80s.
It really is just not very good.
I don't know. I feel like
Even
it could make it as an independent comic from 1982.
it's the noses, man. It's something about them.
It's like a fan's. Well, yeah, because this is clearly amateur
It looks
art.
like a Street Fighter character.
Well, look at the guy's nose. It's literally more than half his face. It's a tumor.
Yeah. So
Strategically, 20,000 citizens atomic bombed in their own capital. Strategically
a victory. This isn't the first time. So Franco Liao eventually.
That's a good one, Fagin Pilot.
Yeah. So Franco Liao kind of goes, and then he goes and kicks the shit out of the Tikhonov a little bit to get them to go, and then unifies it fully. By the
he
way,
also fights Merrick and gets shit back from them too.
I want to note something. Franco Liao is far from the exemplar of virtue and goodness that would-be legend makers might prefer. Like so many of his clan, Franco had a variety of quirks and habits, many of which were hard to deal with, and some were downright irritating. In particular, he fancied himself an accomplished musician, but to the great regret of all within hearing distance, his instrument of choice was the bagpipes.
So you say that, but I have no idea what page this is on.
It's the page just after that art. It's literally under Franco Liao, an appreciation.
Ah, thank you. Sorry, it's just we're jumping around, and that makes it very difficult to know exactly when you're reading from it directly.
Yeah, despite his failings as a musician, Franco could nevertheless be content with the knowledge that he had indeed saved the new Confederation from certain partition. The governmental apparatus needed to sustain the Confederation was fully discovered. Was fully in place. Troops that once were slaughtering each other discovered it was better to stand side by side and slaughter common foes instead, or they would be shot by the Liaos. A general prosperity was bringing new hope. And he then quit in 3095 and gave it to his other brother, Kurnath. I don't know why, but here you go. Kurnath then would do some very dumb shit.
So here's the best part, in my opinion. You can blame House Davian for this fucking house existing.
You can literally behave it.
Because remember, because that's what they mentioned a battle that I think we missed, like the Aesir crisis. That was because they picked a fight with Davian and it didn't go well. One of the three that were kind of loose. No, one of the two, or three. I don't know.
Yeah, Kurnow only lasted about 4 years, but completely, basically eradicated the idea that the chancellorship is temporary. No, it's a dictatorship for life now, motherfuckers. The Ares conventions come around, and you get
Look at this
on
guy. Look at this dude in the art.
the one with the glasses, or the
Oh,
one meditating
the one
below him,
meditating.
meditating in front of like a fucking katana that made out of like. I think this is supposed to be a one of the warrior houses, but it's like we don't haven't even discussed that yet. But yeah, like the Ares conventions happen. Aisha Liao, of course, while fighting the Free Worlds League in Anduria, has that whole fucking shenanigans there. The the next page is
And I think
literally
it's
nothing.
what was it? Her actions that kind of led to this.
Partially, it's the Tintavel massacre that kind of causes this. Yeah.
Sorry guys, this is more dense and kind of hard to follow than the other two previously.
Yeah, this is not exactly what I'd call a really good. Again, as I said, this isn't as. Oh god! So then we get into Sir Stefan. We get into like them talking about Ardent Baxter, the fourth one, which isn't a Liao for some fucking reason. He gets assassinated in 24-25.
Yep. Under the
No
Sir
one knows where
Stefan's
he's buried.
army, the tribulation, mechs and rumors
Uh,
of mechs.
Mechs and Rumors of Mechs is interesting, and because it's the thing you have to remember this. The Lyran Commonwealth was the first one to get the plans of the battle mech by raiding Hesperus 2. The Free World League got part of it, and Marsh Troika, which is the
Maskarovka.
Maskarovka.
Why did? Oh, that's actually
Ma-
just the name of a Russian military tactic. Oh my god.
it's literally that's their intelligence agency is Maskarovka.
That just means the art. It's a term for how the Russians are supposed
Like
to
deception, yeah.
misdirect during war.
It's literally misdirection is the name of their intelligence agency. So yeah, they get battle mechs. It kind of
The
gets a
failure
little
of the
bit.
Lawyers Guild.
Yeah, like again, there's like details. It's like I want more interesting stuff like that, and then there's just fucking
But
nothing.
it's all war all the time.
It's all fucking war. Oh my god, it's not like the other houses they met. Like, oh yeah, there's a period of peace, there's a period of
There's a
that.
period of peace,
Then it's
but
like
they just keep fighting.
they just keep fighting around the sphere. Uh, so they managed to get themselves the production
Oh no!
specs.
After Jasmine dies, this is after they get the mechs. It's only after she dies they finally have a moment of peace.
Yeah,
It's been like 50 or 100 years of
I
pure
could.
war.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, so there's a regent that takes over. Then Rax Liao actually decides that I don't want to be a target for assassination, so you can be the head of. I'm just going to advocate for my brother.
Yeah, he
Uh,
just said screw it.
Fuck it. And I mean that's not the worst choice for a monarch if they don't think they're going to like it. They can.
So instead,
Better that than
Hendrik
not.
came into play.
Hendrik joins with the Lorix Order. I want to know that the Lorix Order is interesting because it's basically like, say, mech warriors deciding to become knights.
You can thank this man.
Yes, the Lorix Order and the Lorix Creed is a very big part of it. Then there's Calvin the Devourer. Morality be damned, ain't I got the power?
Yeah. His uncle retired, and yeah.
This motherfucker took over. At the age of 28, he was the Architectural Chancellor. He was one of the first true mech warriors, the new school of combat. Reserved and dutiful and, intelligent and, like, blonde-haired, green-eyed, became the personification of the worst Liaos could be.
Like,
Converted
you
the
look
Confederation
from
to a
a
living nightmare.
first glance like he was decent, but no. Keep in mind, Calvin the Inflexible, Calvin the Spoiler, the Demon Calvin, he who must be
Obeyed.
Wait a minute, he's blonde
Wait a
and
minute.
green-eyed.
Oh god, no.
And he's a
Not
chaos
Draco
causer.
Malfoy.
No.
Oh.
Calvin,
Who?
he's literally grown up Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh wait, yeah, you're right. No wait, that's with a C. So.
Oh, you have to change the name a little bit.
Yeah. Wasn't this before Calvin and Hobbes was published?
No, Calvin and Hobbes was in the late 80s too, I think.
I don't know.
It started in the late 80s, I believe, and then the 90s. So this is possibly them stealing from Bill Watterson. I'll have to.
Who knows?
Actually, let me I'll put an equal sign. Don't worry, so that I can show us, like, while you're looking at our beautiful faces. Let me actually look at when Calvin and Hobbes was made, because this is interesting, I think. You gotta love how we're going here. It
Yeah,
was
we're going faster
syndicated
than we have
in
our other books.
1985. So yes, he is based on an imaginative, crazy 6-year-old child.
Jesus. Okay.
Calvin, does he have like a does he hallucinate that there's a tiger that talks to him and his name's
No.
Hobbes?
He is a closet megalomaniac, believing that he was destined to become the most renowned ruler of the sphere. Within the
That's not
first month,
entirely wrong from Calvin though, because he had all these horrible daydreams too.
so deciding
Remember
first
when
that the
he
state
what
had,
became a
yeah,
monster in his head and like would cause havoc? It's
yeah,
literally Calvin.
deciding first that the state had not provided him enough personal resources to maintain a sufficiently regal style of living, he set to acquire monies in a noble fashion. Whenever he spied a noble with obvious wealth, he instructed the Mashkarovka to abduct them, have them tried for treason, and confiscated all their property.
Because why make wealth where you could steal it?
He
Or
created what was known as the Courts of Philosophical Inquiry, which is, designed to ensure like a peaceful philosophical state. No, it's kangaroo courts to be used to be charged against the for crimes against the
like the
Confederation,
fake
where he would
bullshit
execute people.
reason is you're supposed to follow a simple political doctrine, philosophical doctrine. If you're in accordance with the philosophies of our state, you're fine. In
Yeah,
reality, oh, you have this money? I want it.
yeah. So then we get into, remember when I mentioned that the real bad blood between the Free Worlds League and the Capellans comes from this fight over, like, there's some fucker from the Capellan Confederation that wanted to marry the Duchess of Anduria, and she just told him no repeatedly because he was already married.
Yeah, it's Calvin, isn't it?
It's Calvin.
God
So
damn it,
Calvin
Calvin.
originally Calvin got brushed off because uh, like he's
Well,
good looking, but he
he's
doesn't
good
seem very
looking, but a
smart.
lunatic.
Like, so as Capellan Chancellor, he's now suiting her officially. He sent 455 official dispatches asking for the hand of the daughter in marriage. These were then followed by a few demands. So he then authorizes multiple marriages, promptly takes 3 little women as wives, and then goes up to 26, all while still trying to court Melissa Van Durian.
Because he doesn't understand the concept of no.
No, this is, yeah. He then basically makes a police state, eliminates the last bits of the elective houses, and in 25-27 declares war for Anduria.
Oh
This
no, it gets even more crazy. He also decimated his own house.
Yeah.
He randomly selected 1 out of 10 people in House Liao to just randomly be killed. Does Liao have
Uh,
at least one leader that isn't Charlie Manson crossed with Idi Amin? No. All
no.
House Liao chancellors have to have some form of megalomaniacal insanity.
Now take a look at this
Some are
guy
more
at the
functional
bottom.
than others.
I think this is supposed to be our friend Kelvin.
Look at him.
Look at this man.
You could tell that there's something wrong with his brain.
Look at his face.
Look at the fire in the background.
Oh no, that's not Kelvin. That's somebody else.
That's the guy working
That's
for
Sergeant
Calvin.
Jordan. That's Sergeant Jordan Chen. Below is the thing, because Kelvin rounded up like 2,000 of the poor, disabled, and blind, and put them in a nice place and gave them all this and get like all these food, and then he burnt the fucking place down because he considered them not worth living. And he watched them all like trying to escape and burn to death while clapping.
By the way, he lasted another couple of years.
Yeah, he did. He lasted until 2530.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what happened to Melissa. He sort of he executed all of his
Murdered
wives. There's
all
like dozens of
26 of his
things.
wives.
Yeah, and the Free Worlds League were fighting completely crazy. I kind of want to note that the next one is actually okay.
Actually, I think the weird psychopath, like doing yeah face, probably is Calvin.
That's Cal. That's almost certainly Calvin.
He looks like. I
So,
just realized they traced the fucking Joker, but changed his smile.
oh yeah, they did.
It's the Joker. Like you can tell from
Oh
the chin
god,
structure.
yeah. So they kind of there
So
was
Calvin is
a
literally Caligula. No, he's more like Elagabalus.
yeah. There was also the proposal to unify Capella and Davian. It went nowhere. Um,
Yeah, it goes into mother and daughter. This is after Calvin finally fucking
yeah.
died.
And on the next page, they talk about that, and it goes about nowhere. There's a
An attempt, but it goes poorly.
the Capellan aristocracy ends when Liao dies of stomach cancer, but for a prince with a wart on his nose, the history of both great houses might have been far different, because that's the reason why she didn't marry him.
Well, she considered him boring too.
Yeah, there's also that. But Celicia's reconsideration, Sir Samuel, you asked me to reconsider my decision. You reconsider it. When you do, consider Terrell Dublin as well. Do you know he's a wart at the end of his nose? How can any of you expect him to wear someone with a wart in his end of his nose? Maybe if he wore a helmet and a faceplate, I could stomach kiss him in public. Beyond that, you must be joking. Don't tell me about reasons of state. Keeping down my lunger that a dedicated effort is the best reason a state I know to stay as far away from that arrogant popinjay. Holy fuck.
So yeah, just the petty entitlement of this lady sunk sunk what
Punk?
happened later on, centuries later, with two different houses.
Yeah. It's kind of nuts. Anyway,
How
Chancellor
didn't
Terrence
every
Liao.
single Liao get Caligula?
Nobody knows.
Well, no, like
It is a mystery.
no, in Calvin's case, I'm pretty sure he was killed, but
He was.
not by like an angry mob, but it's more just Mascarovka finally just moves in when they become too crazy.
It was actually a member of the Red Lancers that
That
murdered
too.
him. Then there's this 80s hair metal band on the next couple pages.
Yep, we're
Page
skipping
41.
past here to the Freebooters War. These are Freebooters.
Or an 80s hair metal band. Brad Tree, I think, drew this. I mean, they look like a punk band from the 80s.
Yeah, they do. I could see them. I could see them releasing some pretty interesting rock fusions or proto
Yeah.
grunge.
Then there's more like, oh hey, the Eris Doctrine, which is like another chancellor. They talk
There's a
about like the
lot of
Sundermans.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff, and this is written drier than the other ones, like more so.
yeah.
Notice we haven't even gotten to the frickin' wars of whatever
Oh god,
the
oh
three
god, we
wars
finally
of
there.
mega wars.
Yeah, Red Storm Rising, which is the start of some of this. So Barbara Liao becomes chancellor, and on page 44 we have some of the best art in this book.
Oh God, look at them.
Look at Richard Cameron. Look at this
Richard
man.
Cameron. No, Stephen Amaris is also a winner.
And Stefan Amaris is just eyeing him like, what the I can't wait to kill you. I just cannot wait to blow your fucking head off.
He has the worst case of mumps I've ever seen.
Look at his mustache,
Look at
too.
Kerensky. He doesn't look like a person.
Hello, I am an old Russian man. I have lost all of my teeth to the vodka. And then Barbara Liao looks like one of those crazy psycho bitches that you find like
She
on
has
a
well, it's because she has senpaku eyes. You can actually see three circles of her parts of her eyes, like the two sides, but underneath. Those are serial
yeah.
killer eyes.
Yeah, those are fucking serial killer eyes. Like this is the kind of bitch that you'd find at like like a parking lot and you hear about like missing truckers and it's her.
I
It's
just
her
realized something
murdering
funny
them.
too. Cameron has the
What?
same senpaku eyes.
Oh my god, you're right.
Two serial killers. So Stephen Amaris did nothing wrong. Look,
Stefan
his eyes are
Amaris did
normal.
nothing wrong.
His eyes are normal, so he did nothing wrong.
Yep. So the succession wars they talk a bit about like Kerensky, like all that stuff.
Yeah, there we go. Succession
Barbara
wars. I'm so
admittedly
dumb.
admits
I forgot the name of those wars.
yeah, the succession wars. I want to note that this is important that thinking back on it all, like how stupid we all were to do that to such a hero, how stupid we were.
Because
And too late
Barbara
regrets
Kerensky.
like Kerensky. She didn't like him enough
Well,
to save his job or save any of that,
on
but
top of
she
that,
liked Kerensky.
if they worked it better in the sense that, like, normally she'd agree, but he went too far in trying to centralize.
Well, part of it's also that it was just
They
kind
needed
of
it
how
to
things
happen.
were. It was going to happen basically. Like
Not it was going to happen. It's the plot needed it to happen.
yeah.
But
I
heart of hearts, if it was argued that at the time she went, you know, he
She
wants to
went with the
overly
crowd.
centralize it. She
She went with
liked
the
him,
crowd, and
but
yeah. Well, demanded his resignation as protector, right? So she assumed that he has to be taken out as the protector. Like the we can't have that as part of the Star League. It would set a bad precedent. Um, but
which is
then
fair
Krebs.
enough.
But then, well, everyone starts to declare themselves the head of Star League, and here comes the first succession war, where the tactical atomic weapons and chemical agents the Capellans
Yeah, we
had
know what
been
the
storing
nukenings are,
for.
and the Capellans were masters
The
of that.
Capellans were masters of nukenings. They did it a lot, also known as the Devlin solution.
Oh, and if you're wondering, I forgot the term succession war because I'm starting to really crash, but it's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna get through this.
We're just gonna blow right through because we know what the succession wars
Yeah,
is. The
there's
nukening
the first and
happened.
the second.
The Capellans are known
Capellan
for
the
the
Capellans
worst
keep losing worlds too. Like, oh
because
fuck.
they keep going way too fucking harsh. Basically, yeah, they're going full to the nines. Like, you know, they're doing all these horrible war crimes. Well, they're more suggestions than crimes, you know,
Yeah,
misdeeds. But they're going
misdeeds.
full to the knives. They're using gas weapons. They're using nuke. Like, they're the ones spamming them harder than most others.
All right, you want a
But
fun
because of
picture?
that, but because of that, the other houses are looking at them because of that. That's why they're losing. Basically, because they're fighting so damn hard and with so many atrocities, they're basically turning enemies where they might have had allies of convenience at the time. That's why they're losing. That's why they lost the first two so badly. I do like the second mech looks even stupider than the first one.
Oh, those are spiders, or the original art for spiders. They don't look very good.
I like the second one whose like head is stuck in their body harder.
It's supposed to be they trace, the uh Cassie the Sundance Kid, the ending scene from that. Take
Oh,
a look. That's the same stances that they've got.
are they supposed to have mouths? Are these mouths?
The Charge of the Lost Brigade. Like, literally, they reference it. Butch and Sundance.
Oh look, spiders. Delete.
Afraid so, Red One. Ready when you are. I copy, Red Leader. Something funny. Somehow I got the feeling this happened to us once somewhere before. Let's go, Butch. Right behind you,
What an
Sundance.
asshole. What a bunch of assholes. Now
They
I don't feel bad
literally
about
quote.
Harmony Gold suing them.
They literally quote it. I
They
I
deserve
am
it.
dead serious.
They fucking
That's
deserve that lawsuit. I'm gonna be honest.
that's actually pretty funny.
It's
I'm gonna
hilarious,
say.
but in a fuck you kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, I know why they got
Uh.
sued.
So on page 50, uh, if we go to that, there's the next really good art.
Because
I
this is
want to
the
note
Succession
this.
Wars.
That's an L85. That's an L85 that a Royal Marine had, and they just copied, traced the picture, and changed all the stuff on it. You can tell it's an L85 because they forgot to remove the charging handle.
Wait, are you talking
See?
about the? Oh, you're talking about the gun. I thought you were talking about the man whose cigar doesn't fit inside his mouth and the pilot helmet that's traced badly.
Oh God,
I
yeah.
was
Like,
looking
as
at
you can see, this
McLeod.
this
So here's the R85 where the gun was badly traced.
it's an L85, so it's like
L85.
it's not a great gun.
Also, you like how his beret doesn't actually cover his head right?
Yeah, I mean that's what berets don't really. Anyway,
There's
they
usually a
then talk
mild
about
amount of deformity though in a beret. Like, that doesn't look
they then
right at
talk
all.
about Maximilian, and Maximilian is the current leader at the
Current
time of the
leader,
setting.
he's the Cro-Magnon we saw earlier.
Yeah, he gets the Death Commandos working. He forms the warrior houses, like all that.
Well, he reforms them because here's the thing: during the it's 3 Succession Wars, Liao lost a lot more than they won.
By the way, if you take a look at the next image, if you scroll down to the next one, it is a mech. Yay!
I actually,
And I think that's supposed to be a Valkyrie from Wolf's Dragoons, and that is a Macross mech. So this is part of why this book isn't sold anymore.
yep, this is a big reason. It is a really good bit of art, though.
Yeah, it's nice. Now the next thing, the Davy question.
Well, I was looking at the
Subtitles.
Maximilian's warrior houses because we kind of breezed through all of it. So,
Oh
what
yeah,
are warrior houses?
that will be talking about more in the military section.
Okay. Did FASA
But
face
yeah,
Operation Nimrod footage or UK Army training film? Probably.
probably. So
I know
the
they
Davy in
I know they
question.
traced for this bit of art they traced stuff too. I think it's from no, they just traced an MRI. They just traced like
Yeah,
an MRI.
it's just an MRI machine. I think that the artists for this section were just like, "Fuck it, we're
Fuck it,
phoning
we
this in."
like who cares about the Capellans?
Nobody gives a shit about the Capellans. So I want to talk about this next section.
Cloning
The Davy in
Hans.
question, cloning Hans. So I want to know that this isn't the only clone of Hans Davian that happened.
I once made a
There
joke.
were multiple.
I once made a joke, viewers, that one of the clone Hanses were actually three psychic cats in a trench coat.
The
Basically,
the thing
cats given neural networking between the three of them to boost their limited predator brains to the point of a human, and it was just three cats in a trench coat pretending to be
now
Hans. But no, they actually genuinely got his DNA and made clones. And I think this is what this clone, I think, wasn't it part of one of the dumber books that was ever released too? Because you mentioned that the particular clone here that they talk about, where they almost succeeded with it, you mentioned that was
yeah,
in one of the dumbest books at the time.
no, that was one of the original book series where they talked about it. The main thing that happened was that there was that, and then there's another clone of Hans running around created by the Catholic Church.
Oh, that's the dumber
I
one. This is the smarter
That's
one.
the dumber one. This is the smarter one. The dumber one is the Catholic Church one, which is silly. Now they then go and talk about a few other things, and they're fighting Hans and all this, and
And also they're building anti-Davian
and
sentiments
they
along
talk
with the
about
premise.
they then talk about the McCarran armored combat stuff, and
McCarran's War.
we'll get to them. We'll get to them later,
Concord of
and then
Captain. Oh, this is mildly important in the sense that basically
yeah,
when the Lyran
I want to know.
Commonwealth and Federated Suns combined, the other three powers went, oh fuck.
Yeah, best military with the most resources now. Oh fuck, like this could be bad. Now I want to note something that his nickname, Maximilian's nickname, is the Diablo.
Which
The flanks left secured for the time being, the Diablo bent his efforts to his greatest behind-the-scenes success to date.
uh,
Under
where?
Concord of Coptian. Under
Oh,
the Concord bit. It's literally the first line under it.
ah. Sorry, it's just we skip around so much. I don't read unless I know for a fact we are.
Yeah, and then we get a bit of art to end this sort of section and on to the next one.
Some guy. That's
Some
all we
guy.
need
And
to
then they
know.
talk about the family Liao, where there's like uh there's few Liaos that have been seen as anything more than caretakers and all that. And then we get a picture of some of the Liaos, and there's a man with 4 pairs of glasses
Rarely has
on or
any one
something.
group of individuals summoned to high office been so varied in terms of temperament. No, they're all insane.
Yeah,
Are anything but mediocre. And yeah, here are the House Liao. You got the embarrassing uncle that's not allowed around children.
you got some
You
woman
you
with a
have
pirate hat on.
you have the pirate hat girl
You
who
have
well,
Chinese cosplayer. You have
no,
fashion
no,
model, and then
You have Korean LARPer,
fashion model.
fashion model, and
The
Uncle Scummy, the man who sells you drugs at the age of 5. He gives you space cocaine when you hit your first grade in space school.
Yeah. Then we get the like a socio-political structure. So they, unlike Merrick, which had a really fun picture of like the like the eagle tearing apart all the other house symbols, which is just fantastic before they separated the sections. We
Brain
get
dead. What?
this.
I
Remember the
completely
eagle
blanked out.
picture
Oh yeah, the good
in
eagle pick, the little
yeah
propaganda.
yeah. Before we went into the social political structure, we didn't get that. So we go into this one. Essentially, there's like
No,
three major
we get a great Liao family photo of a sex offender model, Korean LARPer, which even has a dragon sword, Uncle
and
Scummy, and pirate. That I think that balances out.
yeah. So they talk about how the state works, which is that there are the prefectorate, the office of the chancellor, and the House of Scions. They each
Good.
compete.
Hopefully, time to talk about death cults. Not yet.
Not quite yet. So the chancellor is literally I am the state. The prefectorate is this small governing body of which the chancellor is technically one of, and then there's the House of Scions, which is like the rest of the nobility.
Basically, the prefectorate are just advisors at this stage.
Yes. The Scions sort of similarly, and Capellan rule is sometimes benevolent, generally dictatorial, mostly because of the chancellor. I wanted to quotes here. I am the state under, of course,
I own
King
the
Louis,
state.
and then yes, Maximilian Liao's "I own this state," which I think is pretty good too.
Yep. Each chancellor has a ridiculous amount of power.
Yes, and here's a few of the decrees that were given by various chancellors, which is the Chancellor for Life.
Franco, that's Franco's one.
You can't get rid of the. There's the next one, which you can't get rid of the prefectorate, which was in 2512. This was also allowed the prefectorate to have its own small army just in case.
Well,
Uh,
it's still pretty toothless, but yeah, the prefectorate
yeah,
does have a couple of roles, from what I understand.
yes, it does. And then there's a 2598, which is a
Well, they
way
have
to allow the
legislative
prefectorate.
power, basically,
The prefectorate basically gets to choose who's going to be the next chancellor.
among the
It
family.
is they meet once a month in a closed session to discuss matters of importance and to pass legislation.
So they have some teeth, but not a lot.
They have some teeth, but not a lot. The main thing is the Chesterton decree, which is that if the prefectorate can't actually sorry
Well, it determines that there has to be the prefectorate is picked from the Hargreaves.
there has to be at least one from Chesterton. So until the Chesterton is recovered. There's also another one, which is the creative succession, which is that there are three formal votes. If three formal votes fail to select a new chancellor, as in you vote, all the prefectorates vote, and there's still no leader, most senior member of House Liao will get the job.
Because
Simple enough.
that was when they had a problem picking one.
Yes. And then the decree of martial unity in 2964, which was done by the guy just before Maximilian, which established the warrior houses.
And the House of Scions, it's not really a legislative body.
But he
It's
is
just where you go to
it's
complain.
yeah, if you're a noble, you go here.
To complain.
To complain, and the technically speaking, the Scions can veto things.
It usually results in them getting disappeared, but if like all of them at once say screw that.
Yeah, the main thing is that well, mainly it's because they can veto things the protectorate brings up, because the chancellor can't actually propose legislation.
In theory.
In theory, he can make decrees, but he can't technically propose legislation. So usually they're the ones also in charge of the financials, and then the Capellan administration, which is beyond the troika. These
Oh
poor
no, there's one
sots.
more thing that the Scions do. They when a member of when the member of the prefectorate dies, they select a new person to fill
Oh
it.
yes, that's right. Which is where their power really comes from.
That's their main power.
It's really their only power. Well, also they have the power of the purse, but that's about it.
Yep. Now we go to the
The
ministerial.
mystery. We are the forgotten, doing the impossible for the ungrateful. That's fantastic, honestly.
We are the forgotten doing the impossible for the ungrateful. Yeah, that's pretty
Which is
good.
basically almost any bureaucracy. Man in charge tells you to go do something. Man in charge has no fucking idea how many forms you actually have to fill out to do something. And then they hate you because you can't do something immediately.
And in this case, they have a variety of directors
They have a
for
variety of ministries as well.
And I think they're also limited by planet. Like, Ministry of Resource must come from Sarna. Ministry
Uh,
Information Standards must come from Sion.
yeah, I think that's
Trade
how
and
it works.
Exchange
Yes.
must come from Capella. Development must
Ministry
come from Chesterton, but since they
Chesterton
don't currently own it, those
and
from
from
Chesterton.
Sirius. Yeah, from the Sirius lines. The Ministry of Social Education from St. Ives. The Ministry of Military from Tikhonov.
They
So
have to come
basically,
from them. And this was probably a compromise made
early on.
before Franco.
Yeah.
Like, this was probably how they got St. Ives and Sarna to join.
So basically, Ministry of Resources can coordinate stuff like planetary resources, water purification,
Well, you say that, but since
technological
they're
stuff.
based on the Soviets, I'm assuming it's more like they set the quotas, and if you don't meet them, well, say
To
hello
some
to our
degree.
friends.
That's to some degree. But more accurately, they coordinate the scientific efforts to a greater or lesser degree. The Ministry of Information Standards, they're sort of the propaganda, but they're also not. They're actually the ones that are in charge of the currency and calculating time,
Well,
which is
it's
really
partially
tricky to do.
propaganda, but their big thing is they're the ones that mandate standards for weights.
Weights and measures for time, for all of that, to keep all of it going, to keep the compelling currency standardized and not fluctuating from planet to planet. All these different things they
And they're
have to
also on the
handle.
lookout for planets getting funny ideas like inventing their own currency because, hey, remember,
We need a centralized
It was
currency.
Victor Liao who did that the first time to the Terrans. They
Yeah.
know what happens if a planet introduces its own currency
Yeah, it can go badly.
because they did that.
So it gets
Ministry of Trade and Exchange, you know what they do. They run the merchant marine too, so they can
yeah.
crash the economy, no
They
survivors.
also any captured world, they will use these acquired populations from raw materials. They dictate what is done with that. The Ministry of Development is the one that's designed is a Maximilian's most recent industry, and it's more designed to maintain the fact that we need food. Holy shit! Like this is getting bad, guys. They
Oh, and
actually have the
mhm.
highest amount of money assigned to them to reconstruct because the succession wars have been so fucking awful.
Well, not only that, but because the Capellans' main response is to fight to the nines to the point where they get destroyed.
Yeah.
They kind of
Yes.
need that to build back up. And it's very hard to
Then
centralize production in Battletech. Plans to be hard to manage it. Yeah, that's fair, Holtz,
yeah.
because Battletech humanity very much doesn't like to be ruled by anyone. That's why they expand so much.
Yeah. Well, beyond a certain point, they really haven't gone out too much, but
Well,
well,
they
at
still
least in large
expand much
numbers.
more
They still
quicker.
go out. They still go out to a degree, but not like super much. Anyway, the Ministry of
Social
Trade and
education, which
Exchange, social
is
education. Yeah, this is very much the propaganda ministry.
yep. While information standards is more just to prevent funny ideas like different currencies and to keep
Yeah,
things consistent
it's
so
funny.
that
You
everything
think,
works.
yeah, you'd think that information management would be the one that's the propaganda department. It's
Oh
actually the
no.
social
Oh
education.
no, they just make sure that like the Capellan foot is standard on all planets so that merchants don't get screwed over because hey, otherwise the Lyrans are going to take all the business like they usually do.
Yeah. Ministry of the military, of course, is the military.
Yep, and they're always from
Simple enough.
Tikhonov as mentioned.
So then they talk about how the titles and then the commonalities and all that.
Yep.
Like they mention that like how various things work and how the nobility actually works as well, which is it's it can be
So the
issued for
commonality
meritorious
is
service.
a basic division of the Confederation.
Yes, which is that there's the five of the six of them are the original Capellan states, which are Tikhonov, Sion, Sarna, Capellan, and St. Ives, and then Chisholm is was needed to get the Confederation ratified. Franco made that
Also to
one.
weaken Tikhonov.
Also, yes, and then that got destroyed and reabsorbed, and now the Chesterton was created after that. That region is under control of the Federated Sons, but the officially
It's like
the
Taiwan.
family that was there, yeah, the family that was in Chesterton still has a vote on their commonality. It
And
will be restored to
below
them if they retake it.
commonalities, they're divided into duchies, warrens, and
These warrens
demesnes.
and domains, yeah. So basically, a duchy is the largest, which is Each duchy contains usually about 6 star systems, though there's some larger grand ones. Each one is divided into a warren, each one comprising one or more star systems, usually with several inhabited worlds. A warren is divided into various dimensas, which is an individual star system.
And if you're wondering, the duchies are ruled by the diems. That's the fancy clothed lady that we saw
Yeah.
much earlier.
And then planetary fiefdoms can be awarded in or out.
And they're either warrens or
diems,
demens.
yeah. So the Capellan court is actually filled with a bunch of absentee landlords, many of which haven't actually been to their owned planet for years. Now, that being said, unless it is legally specified as hereditary, these titles can be revoked at will by the Chancellor.
And most of them are not. Mainly because it's much easier to replace a noble line than it is to,
Yeah, most of them are not hereditary. There's very few exceptions. There's 2 types of noble titles. There's the hereditary, known as the Sheng, which are the older landed aristocracy.
And they're the ones harder to get rid of.
Yes, they're from the older commonalities. And then there's the Barduk, or the sword military, which are usually
they earn it through merit. They're not hereditary, and more recently nowadays, especially since there's always been kind of a warrior vibe. Since remember, Capellans kind of came up with the idea of mech warriors being knights in the first place.
Yeah, there's also the fact that you can just pay a lot of money.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. If you're like the crazy man who owned New Hessen, you could just pay your way into nobility.
There's also certain privileges and prerogatives that you get for being nobility. There's also 5 ranks, and the titles vary, as you can see. Like the lowest is obviously like knight or lady, and then baron, count, marquise, duchess, or whatever.
Fun. The point being, notice, by the way, that to make them unique and different, and to really highlight that they're totally not Asian, or that they're totally Asian oriented. I promise, guys. Lama, Lamia,
Shanso, Mandarin, and then just Lord, Lady, Duke, Duchess.
Which is fair.
Whatever. Which is fair. Like, it's fine.
The Confederation's funny. If they weren't so insane, their institutions would be really solid. Holtz, to give you an idea, I learned about Elias Liao, their founder. He went from normal politician, philosopher, to psychotic terrorist anarchist cell leader, to the man who sold Oscar Mayer wieners on his death. House Liao was fucked. And their line is insanity.
Yeah, so
I honestly think that each of them have schizophrenia in their family background, and it gets activated probably because they take the same drugs Elias did when he went to Nepal.
So the next thing to note is that there are some rights and nobility gets. First one, nominate a family successor. Anyone in your family you want to succeed you can nominate. This is it doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Have first pick.
Yeah, it's an elective succession, basically. That's pretty important.
You also have control over a mint if you're able to swing permission. It has to be based on the standards that the information security ministry gives you.
Yes, but also specifically, it's only useful for trade outside the Confederation. That's the ticker there. So that the Confederation it's not for internal use, it's for external use. This can lead to issues, but at the same time, it allows the Confederation to just suddenly say, like, no, we don't actually owe you any of that money. That was this person.
That's a cursed bloodline if there is such a thing in BT. Yeah, Holtz, Liao has kind of insanity.
Liao is pretty cursed,
remember, the only other interesting bit, because this book has a big problem where, and then this war happened, and then this war happened. Elias was great, and reading about Franco was pretty great too, because Franco decided he'll crash his country no survivors if he's not picked as king. He hijacked their entire merchant fleet and said, we'll let you starve upon your planet unless you give me the chancellorship. And then when the guy tried to fight back again, he then had him erased when he became chancellor. Yeah. And then on top of that, nuked his own capital city, which is where that black border comes from, just because the House Davian didn't think, wait, this is their capital. There's no way he'd be nuts enough to, forgetting that House Liao came from a terrorist leader who used a fusion bomb in Beijing.
Because why not? Why the fuck not?
But other things they can do is judication, so they have some minor abilities to work as a judge or part of a jury. They
Yeah.
can give military commissions. They actually can promote. Although their success is your success, so if you're willy-nilly about it, your
It's going to
officers
go
might
bad.
not just disappear, but you will too.
They can also create minor nobility. They can tax populations that are direct control beyond just the general taxation. They also get to hear the. They also get to go to the House of Scions to defend themselves if they are charged with crimes. Uh,
Which isn't
you
which it's kind of funny because if you weren't a noble, you usually aren't going to be selected anyway.
Yeah.
Like you're not
So
going to be picked on anyway, so
it's
it's a
literally
double-edged
a
sword.
yeah. It's a jury of your peers, which could be very bad for you. Very, very bad for you. And then you have the right to appoint essentially lower level nobility, like barons and knights, to manage your shit.
So
Because the central government doesn't have to authorize like that sort of like low level micromanagement.
so
Go fuck
there's
yourself.
two other titles, the DM and Refractor.
The DM is an ancient Tikhonov title now applied to basically all survivors of wars. It's basically the seneschal of a duke or a duchess.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing, like they aren't actually nobility. They're administrators.
Usually,
They're
in
unofficial
case of a
nobility.
noble who, like, if, let's say I am a duke of a planet, of
I'm
like a
a
bunch of
duke of like
planets.
4 planets. Like I've got 4 systems I need to manage.
I've
I don't have
personally
time for that.
selected I've personally selected two of them because that's where my main money's from.
Yes, and
These two can be run by refractors. I don't care.
yes, refractors can then manage the rest of it. Like I just can't bother. So or DM is the similar
It's very
thing.
fitting
Like
refractors came about because of the Dread Lord Calvin, probably who
yeah, refractor
hallucinated Hobbes.
a refractor is actually, interestingly enough, a planetarily elected leader.
Not only
They
that, but they
aren't
run the militia, the planetary militia.
yes, they aren't actually nobles, but it's an elected position essentially of like we are the planetary representation to a noble. So they are people that will run the militias that basically their job is to be the go between the population and
So even personal planets that the noble selects people to run, like their
it
knights and lords, there's usually a refractor that there
that
that you know,
tells them, "Sir, you can't keep taxing us. The people will revolt in like 5 days. Please don't."
and then he just shows the kill on sight order that he has on himself and all of his cronies, which includes the refractor if he doesn't meet quota.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the legal system, there's been two tries at codifying law. There's the Edicts of St. Ives and the Capellan Concordat. The first one was the Edict of St. Ives because this is what kind of bound the Capellans, which fused with what Sion, which I think was Liao's
Yeah.
holdings, and St. Ives together to fight Sarna.
Yes. Then there's Capellan Confederate, which
Which
is
formed
the
because Davian basically pissed off all of the other powers by trying to be the big swinging dick.
yeah. The Capellan Confederate is basically this: no chance a representative of the chief executive may have a citizen of this confederation deprived of life or liberty without due process of law. So
No,
you have to have a trial.
you have to have a
It
trial.
doesn't necessarily need to be fair. I want to note this. They don't say it has to be a fair trial. They just say you have to have a trial.
Also,
Um,
they do say that you can't be deprived of life, so they cannot actually try your corpse, thankfully. They cannot
yes.
kill you and then preemptively have your trial.
Yeah, they can't kill you and then try the body. They have to give you at least a basic trial. Now that could literally be: are you guilty? What do you plead? Guilty, not guilty? Not guilty. Wrong, and then shoot you. But they have
Well,
to at least give you that.
usually that's too crude. What would probably happen is you're kidnapped and then tortured for 80 hours, like in Lubyanka prison, and then your broken, shattered corpse then reveals all of the conspiracies you were a part of. Because at this point, you just want it to end. Please, just kill me now.
It's
Like your
also
average
important to
Soviet
note.
kangaroo court trial.
Yes, that's true. That can happen. But let's note to the next two. Any individual subjected to personal injury or abuse at the hands of any member of the compelling government may petition the judiciary to bring charges against said persons.
Now that's
Okay,
usually only going to work on, say, a baron, a
a
knight,
lower level,
or a duke. Maybe you could get away with a duke,
low,
maybe.
yeah, low level people. Number three, an individual may request the charges brought against their person by the state be adjudicated by the noble ruler under whose direct authority the defendant is a subject. This is an important bit. This is where those fuck up military leaders can come to bite you in the ass.
Yeah, because again, you can pick your leaders, and if they're good, you're usually fine. But if they turn into Zap Brannigan and they can't get a win despite being Zap Brannigan,
Yeah.
you're
I
in
also
his
want
heads are going to be rolling.
I also want to note these don't fully apply to treason. But the next bit is also important. An individual may request that a refractor act on behalf of the accused, even to the extent of demanding and receiving audience of the prefectorate to ensure that evidence and bearing on a given case is fairly and properly presented.
And that's why refractors are so important. Even
Yes.
even all planets have them, even if they're not listened to at all, because they usually have knights or nobles, elsewhere.
And this
So
is
yeah.
number 5. This is the most important. I want to note this. All of these only apply to citizens. Number 5 is also very important for this reason. No individual should be deprived of compelled citizenship without all the rights pertaining hereto without a majority vote of the House of Scions. Now that being said,
You do
with
you can't just have them vote though, because notice there's one more thing. Presentation of sufficient cause.
yes,
So while you can be kangaroo court executed, losing your citizenship is actually noticeably harder, because there
yes,
has to actually be somewhat legitimate looking evidence enough to,
not to convince 200 people.
well, not even
That's
200. You need
101,
101.
101, that's a
That's
decent
still a,
bar.
that's still a high enough bar that you're probably if you fuck up, you're probably going to die. But you're not
But
going
if
to be
it's
removed.
and if you don't die, you might get away with just being busted down to shit peddler. Like, hey,
So for all the, because here's the thing, I'm noticing for all the shit posts about Capellans being garbage, their biggest flaw is just they don't know when to fucking stop, which is the same thing with Kurita, from what I've been told.
it's also that it is still a police state. Like, let's be fair here.
You say
This is
that, but
still a
like
police state.
compared to every other state, I mean, the only one that I kind of look with any positivity is Merrick at the moment.
So anyway, so the
Because
next bit is the courts.
Davian ain't that fluffy either.
Yeah, so when they went with Davian, let's go here. It's also possible that you can bring in a chancellery court. Chancellery courts can ignore basically everything we just mentioned before. If the chancellor wants you to die,
This is what he brings.
this is immediately. This is not a regular court. This overrides all of it. You're fucking dead. Same thing with courts of toleration to some degree. These are the
Basically,
courts that are used to try nobles.
if you're in a court of tolerance, that's bad, but you might survive it.
You might. You'll just be stripped from noble protection and then probably get fucked.
Now, chancellery courts, unless you manage to somehow pull like a great convincing to the chancellor, because it doesn't
Unless
matter.
you bring evidence to the chancellor that no, I am not guilty. These people are setting me up. I can list their names. I have evidence of this. You're fucking dead.
And even then, the chancellor might just kill you anyway, because fuck you.
Also, it's also important to note that any Capellan citizen may appeal to the chancellor at a decision handed down by the courts. In actuality, this has never occurred.
Although, wouldn't it be funny though if that actually did happen once?
If you want to do an RPG campaign about just getting you need to get an audience to the chancellor to
Some petty
overrule some.
knight destroyed your cabbage cart, like a la Avatar: The
Yeah,
Last Airbender.
and you must have vengeance upon this
So,
lesser
so
noble.
you
The
first
courts will
start.
not allow it.
So you first go to the refractor, and
Practice
and,
says
and he gives it
this is like really minor. Like, why are you even bothering me?
this is my livelihood.
This was my livelihood. He ruined it. And it's
He
like,
destroyed
okay.
all my cabbages. That was all my harvest this season.
And then it's like, okay, so what about next? Well, I mean, I could kick this up the chain. I will go up the chain. I will go all the way to the chancellor.
And he's like,
And
"Good luck with that, buddy. The highest
good
anyone's
luck with
ever
that,
gotten
buddy.
is the House of Scions."
How highest of that one is the prefectorate. There are a couple of appeals that have gotten to that the
Good
prefectorates,
luck. There's only been
mostly
like one
through
or two
bribery.
cases.
Mostly through bribery. So
Well, in this
you know,
guy's case, it's pure annoyance.
it's through fucking annoyance. It's like that one. There was like an Egyptian story about a man that ended up like repeatedly going to the pharaoh and like bugging him. It's a story that was written down. It's one of those like oh, we use this to teach scribes sort of stories.
Yeah,
Anyway, moving on.
I
There's
love it
family
though.
veneration.
So
Yeah,
that's the
family
thing,
veneration
because they're
is
based on
important.
China. Because they're based
Uh,
on China,
because they're
especially
based
old
in China.
Chinese philosophy, family is very important. And in Chinese culture, a very common thing is ancestor worship, even if they do believe in other gods. There's a variety of gods that exist in Chinese pantheon that vary a lot based on region. And usually ancestors are still venerated. Uh, Nowadays they can't do the full rituals, and a lot of it has to do with like just pure land space. Because
Yeah,
in Chinese culture, you're supposed to be buried, but
there's enough space.
there's not enough space. So that's one of the reasons the communist government has cremation as a thing and keeps pushing it.
Yeah,
They literally
it's
can't.
just
There's too many dead.
there's too many fucking dead people because there's too many fucking people in our country. God damn it.
Yeah.
Uh,
So family
yeah,
veneration's a big thing
family
in
veneration is very important, and
Bears
so is
because of the
respect for the elderly.
because that's
Respect for the
another
elderly is
thing
very
in
important.
Chinese culture because of
And then we
Confucian
got Ho Chi
values.
Minh down here, I think.
I think that is traced Ho Chi Minh.
I'm pretty sure. So the next one to note is the religion and philosophy, a liberal intolerance.
Which leads to, I believe someone mentioned that Coyote 16 Able. Sadly, yeah, funnily enough, the Confederation is one of the more tolerant.
Yes,
Interestingly,
they are. Interestingly enough, they're pretty tolerant in comparison to some states when you like, well, mostly Korea, but they are very much as long as the religion does not interfere with the main doctrines of the philosophy of the Confederation, it's kind of
free game.
okay.
Yeah, it's free game.
Now that being said, Maximilian Liao is changing this to this point. He's starting to take more of a thing to be against this. So mostly
Which is
the
just a reflection of communist China at the time.
also a reflection of Maximilian Liao being a paranoid motherfucker.
Soviet Union as well. Like it's just repeating things that were kind
Yeah,
of important back in the day. Like in '88, they were concerned. They were concerned about
it's
godless
also
communists. That
it's
sort of
also
thing.
mostly because organized religions aren't really acceptable, but but usually they don't actually have a state religion. They just say please don't organize politically and you're fine.
So
This
yeah,
is part of the reason why there's a couple of different incidents that happened. The Church of Future Present, which the on Anderson's World, which has a religious creed that suggested, among other things, that individuals should look to their own welfare and the welfare of their brethren before looking to the welfare of the state. This was not acceptable.
are we
This was
looking in Lessons of the Faith?
Yes,
Ah,
this
here
is
we go.
not
Yeah,
acceptable. They were charged with subversion, being subverted by the House Davian. They're one of every five were transported, involuntary transported to permanent exile on a periphery world. Basically, they took them to the Gulag, and
that's
then their
actually
leaders have been
pretty
imprisoned.
lighthearted for Liao,
Considering
actually.
the Capellans, yeah, this is because they are in the end a really small cult, and they're just harmless. There's no
And
reason.
the only reason that they were that is they emphasized the individual above the state. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
only
the
reason they
only
got in
reason.
trouble.
That's the only reason at all.
So honestly, just
Now,
being exiled to a periphery world and allowed to do their own thing, that's very light. Like
well,
very mild.
1 in 5 was. The rest of them were imprisoned. So
The fact that they were
not
still allowed to
great.
exist is amazing.
The second incident, though, very different. A private religious sect advocating a pan-human unity, extending to all believers in all successor states. Not under Liao. Uh, was considered an act of disloyalty, and there
Because
was a
they tried to expand outside of the state. Not only outside the
yes,
state, they tried to
but put
unify
themselves
on
as
a
an
power
authority.
without them.
Yeah, they tried to say that we are an authority that is not beholden to the state.
Because future present at least believed in the state. They just put it at number 2.
Yes.
These guys
Uh,
don't. They don't even
no.
acknowledge it. They acknowledge a future utopia state that they believe in.
Yeah. So Colonel Ridzik was disguised as a group of mech warriors as a rogue mercenary unit, and had them killed.
To a
Thousands
man.
of defenseless civilians were systematically exterminated, and though a handful survived, basically all of the movement's done. Probably with this mech down here, this is the Vulcan. The Vulcan's a bit of a
I love its
misunderstood
head.
boy. Yeah, he has this weird hunched head. He has a flamer. He has a AC-2 in his basic form, which is an utterly useless weapon in mech-to-mech combat in most situations.
But against people, it's fine.
Against people and light vehicles, it's fine. There's a better versions of him that would come out later, but the classic Vulcan is a well, it's a weird looking mech, so it's a classic for a
Organized
reason.
religion doesn't threaten House Liao much because populations are insular in their planets, and the government has mechs. Only when fanatics start doing terrorism, they start reacting strong. Well, a reminder: the House founder was a terrorist, so yeah, they know
Yeah, so
exactly when to
yeah,
step
they know
in.
exactly where they could go. So instead of a official religious creed, the chancellors encourage a couple of just philosophies to
The two-state philosophies: Corvin Doctrine and the Kasarna
and then the
Mandate.
Sarna Mandate. The Corvin Doctrine is basically sort of like how the Capellans are dominating things, and that we should all unify into a cohesive state under one banner, a greater humanity that we should all strive to, which is an ancient Capellan philosophy that they then used and interpreted to direct the course of that they are the rightful leaders. The Capellan state is the rightful leaders of greater humanity, and thus should dominate all other states.
So this one's very simple. It's just the equivalent of divine mandate. It's just
It's
we are the true inheritors of Starleague, not just Starleague, but original Terra. We are the
yeah,
ones
and
that guide
also
humanity's future. If you believe in that, if your religion doesn't oppose that at all,
yeah,
you're usually
also
fine.
that to disobey the state is to threaten the ultimate future of the human race, because the ultimate future of the human race should be for this.
And that's why the panhumanists were slaughtered to a man, because they
Yes,
believed in Corvin doctrine, but they removed the part about House Liao, and they believed that their little cult was.
yes, which was no.
See,
The Sarna
future
Mandate.
present didn't do that. They only said that I think that the Sarna mandate was where they came into.
They said that the state is important, but the individual should come before the state, and your family should come before the state. Now,
That might be
that's
why they were only
acceptable.
in prison because of the family thing.
Yeah, because they're still acknowledging that the state is important, and you're not disobeying the will of it, but it's saying that to help your family should be your first priority.
Which,
Which,
I mean, that's respectable. That's probably why even the imprisoned ones. I'm imagining most of them were just sent to the industry, to the industry and
yeah,
development
to the
work.
mines. They're sent to the mines.
Like
The Sarna
because
mandate
family.
is that only the elite are capable of governing by virtue of their education, their military prowess, and it's also somewhat based on the Lorix order idea of the mech warrior is supreme.
And that is one of the crazy aspects is the Mech Warrior Supreme, which makes kind of sense because Mech Warriors are powerful units.
Yep. And down below here we have fun outlines of mechs that were unseen at the time, have been reseen, and they're actually their profiles now would be acceptable. This piece of art would probably pass muster for a future book.
So these were
Sadly enough.
unseeables that were revived.
The archer going from left to right, the archer, the warhammer, the marauder. Archer is a big missile boy. Warhammer is a PPC boy with some lasers, go pew pew, and a short range missile and a spotlight on him. And then the Marauder is the classic Xeon or whatever it is gun pod thing from some show.
No,
He
no,
looks a
no.
little silly.
What was it? No, it's not
Glorks
the
or whatever.
ball. It's not the ball. The
It's
ball
not the
does not
ball.
have legs.
But yes, the Lorix order is basically 6 degrees. The individual citizen has the right to expect the highest degree of professionalism from the officers that will decide his fate. The highest order of warrior and defender is and forever shall be the mech warrior. The mech warriors are and shall remain a special breed unto themselves. They will be accorded the highest honor possible, and in turn should be expected to perform the most outstanding feats in daring in defense of the state and its citizens. To perform their most important tasks, most warriors must be afforded the opportunities to advance their various skills and expertise. To this end, war is an acceptable way of life because it inevitably contributes to the defense of the state through the increased skill of its defenders.
And that's why the Capellans are at war so damn much, by the way.
Partly, once mech warriors reach the summit of his profession, only another mech warrior has the right to terminate his life. Conversely, the mech warrior has the right to extract personal retribution without fear and reprisal.
So
The
hear that? If
highest,
you get yeeted by a tank, watch out.
yeah. Sixth, the highest and most important ideal in any mech warrior's life is loyalty. Loyalty to the citizens he protects, the state he provides, and to the chief effective of that state, who is the mech warrior's commander in chief. This is one of the reasons why the warrior houses base themselves off of the Lorix Creed.
Well, they're a little bit different because the original Order of Lorks was very quickly ripped apart because they were
Yeah.
disobedient little shits.
Yeah. The next one is thought control,
Which is
which, you
very
know,
important.
very important. A proper philosophical perspective must be maintained. So the philosophical examiners are basically elementary and junior school students get taught things that are not propaganda, totally not, no. Uh, and also they will take a
Snitch
look
on
at
their family or snitch on their
snitch on your
peers.
fam. Basically, it's
They're
more to actually
basically Mao's
evaluate how
young cadres.
they base more likely they want to make sure that the Corvin and Lorix doctrines are supported amongst the youth. They're the ones that teach those the most specifically. Again, just propaganda teachers. The courts of philosophical inquiry are kangaroo courts.
Yeah, if you
Uh,
get brought here, you're in trouble.
you're in trouble. If you're suspected of being unreliable, there's usually a few things. It can go badly, but then if a citizen is if a citizen is not perfect, according to the philosophical examiners, and the court agrees, they will be stripped of all ranks and holdings, removed from office, and can even be placed in prison.
Just educate. No, it's not
You
prison. It's
cannot.
an education. It's education
Yes,
seminar.
it's a re-education camp where
It's
they
a
beat you.
re-education seminar.
Yeah, for the next 10 to 20 years.
And then
The
there's the
the
ranks
next
of the dedicated.
Yeah, it's also important to note that if a court of philosophical inquiry takes your shit, you cannot appeal that. That's the primary way of which they use to circumvent the rights of mentioned by the Concordat earlier, is these courts.
And it's actually the courts of philosophical inquiry was created by the Dread Calvin because he used it to steal
Yes.
all their shit.
Yes. Now, the ranks of the dedicated is one of those insurance policies that is most recently put in. These are the young.
These are the Mao zealots. Basically, they're based on Maoist youth groups that would report on their
That's what these
parents
were,
and
yes.
everything. Yeah.
It's simple. Okay, so first off, strength and weaknesses of House Liao. The philosophy wise, they've created a military machine capable of extreme self-sacrifice and willing to accept immense personal losses in defense of the state.
Mainly because the consequences if they don't,
Partially that, but partially because they
they genuinely
genuinely have
believe.
been believe this. However, there's also a level of suspicion all over.
Not just suspicion,
Even
cynicism.
even the suspicion of the government itself. This is right now, it's possible for local religious beliefs and dissident movements to possibly spark civil wars across the state if they ever manage to get in touch with each other.
Liao's pretty good about stamping them, but if you're wondering, I've been casually, just occasionally skimming through maps on BattleTech. Like I was trying to find I was trying to find the meme for the thumbnail.
Yeah.
You have no idea how many times I looked at I found random maps instead where the Capellans were gone,
Yeah.
and it's
The
partially because of that.
the Capellans lose a lot, and I do mean a lot of fucking territory in
It's actually kind of
it.
strange because if you think about it, they because of their centralization, they probably have the chance at doing really well. It's just their leaders are nuts.
Their leaders are nuts, or they weren't prepared for the big shindig, or they underestimated their opponents, which is kind of what happened in the first Succession War.
1984 obliteration of the self. Yeah, that's what they're trying to push.
Yeah, that's very much a doctrine of the Capellans is obliterate the self,
So here's
state
the
above all.
Capellan military. We'll just go basic into the structure. There's the
The
command
Capellan
council.
military. Okay, if people wonder, well, why are the Capellans still alive? It's their military. Unironically, 100% their military. Their military is a very professional force. It has a group of mercenary units, which are generally taken in as well.
Not only that, but
You
they can call reliably, very reliably, on the
Yes,
militia from each planet.
yes, they're very well able to replace casualties and have a very good defense in depth strategy. That's one of the other reasons why they've been able to survive as long as they have, is that they can take those losses that other states just would not be able to.
So they have the command council, which is responsible for all assets of strategic planning, and it's essentially Not just between army, like it's all aspects of it. Not just your mech pilots, but you have your infantry, armor, and air like gathering
Not only
together.
that,
So
but also
unlike
mercenaries.
and mercenary units, and because of that, they have a better grasp on combined arms warfare than anyone but House Merrick
Yes,
because they actually
it's
talk to each other.
it's also because they have to. The Capellans, in terms of like mech amounts, are not. They're kind of lacking. They've lost a lot. So they much like how Merrick has to rely on its conventional forces quite a bit to carry the day. So did the Capellans. The Capellans actually have the same issue of they can't really manufacture many heavier mechs.
So another reason that Capellans fight well above their fucking weight is the procurement division. Unlike any,
Yes.
and this makes them unique. Unlike the other two guys I've seen, Merrick has the good combined arms warfare, but it has the problem of being very disjointed because a lot of
Yeah.
regional militias. No, with the Capellans, it's centralized units with mercenaries, but also they have their logistics completely under control. They have
Capellan
entire
logistics.
units
Yeah.
dedicated to it.
Capellan logistics and procurement is possibly the best in the sphere. This is probably the reason why they've been able to survive as long as they have, is that they can get reinforcements to the battlefield faster and better than anyone else. They can get ammunition. Maybe not food, but they can definitely get you ammunition.
Biggest buyers of quick sell. You'll bleed hundreds for every
Oh,
kilometers of Confederation
oh yeah.
soil. Yeah.
Not only that, but they will let you they will let you take that 100 miles of kilometers, then chemical weapon gas it, nuke it, then retake it.
The quick sell company. Make sure you read the parts manifest beforehand.
Quixel is a manufacturer noted for their very shoddy production, but they sell things on the cheap end in bulk. So basically, every house has bought things from Quixel,
So
oftentimes regretting it a few days later when they realize that these things actually came in boxes with assembly instructions like an IKEA army, and now they have to build them themselves.
so this is Space China.
This is Space China mixed with Space Russia mixed with Space North Korea.
Hey there. Hey there. You sound like you're in a Capellan re-education center. How are you doing?
Yeah. Now the Capellan Navy is also pretty solid.
I mean, they've always
Not
been okay, but not great. Not
Now,
bad.
it's also important to note that they have a problem because of this. They have a couple of other things. Capellan R&D is kind of wishy-washy, but their intelligence is second to none, and their administration and finance is very complicated and
Complicated,
has a
but
lot of
pretty.
problems.
There's many problems, but it's also fairly effective too.
It's fairly effective. Warrior houses have duplicates of it, so they don't actually have to rely on this division, which is part of the reason why
Yes.
warrior houses generally get better shit, because they don't have to stand in line for the paymaster.
Yeah,
Basically,
there's warrior houses. We didn't talk about them because they're
we'll
not
get to
important
them.
until now.
The Capellan Medical Corps is also very politically important within there. It's incredibly important and incredibly powerful. They can basically, if you're not taking care of your men on a medical basis, they will get you executed. They have the ability to do this. Yes, the Capellans will throw men into the grinder, but if you come out of that grinder alive and missing a couple of limbs, they'll bolt new limbs onto you at the expense of the state and send you right back into the grinder.
In case you're wondering, the Capellans are very much Soviet/China inspired.
Yes.
But
But it's
unlike those
also
two, they actually have a good medical corps.
they not only have a good medical corps, but they have a lot of like, oh, you have rights. You have like the right as a citizen to get like a lot of shit. The thing is that like other citizens, there's classes that aren't citizens, and it really sucks to be not citizens. Like really, really sucks.
There's also
So
acquisition and
acquisitions and
training.
training, which sets civilian quotas to for training to acquire men and material, so you can just get conscripted.
And these are the insignias of the line regiments and orders.
And then ranks and all that.
Yep.
And then, oh my god. Oh my god, look at this man. What the fuck is that unit emblem? Is that like a shark with, is that a fiddler crab
What
with a
page is
mohawk?
this?
I'm on page,
We're on page
70.
70.
Oh my
Deviliano. Is that the
Oh my
planet?
god.
I the
Is that
fucking
his
fiddler
name?
crab too.
A fiddler crab with a mohawk as your unit insignia is like, I can't think of a better unit insignia for a mercenary group that just does not give a fuck anymore.
I love the cowboy hat too for no reason.
I know he's got a 10-gallon hat and just a bandana around it, and he's got like a scar on his nose and his cheek.
And he's just
Or is that
looking
fat?
at 1,000-yard stare. But I don't
Like-
at something.
Meanwhile, his bitch of a wife is behind him, like
he looks
very.
he looks like a baby in a costume.
He does. Hey, Rachel,
Okay.
your audio's back. I guess you weren't found as an enemy of the state and
Everything
summarily
is fine.
executed.
Everything
Okay,
is
So
fine.
next off, you should note this: is the Capellans have various, much like the other states, they have their own divisions, but the Capellans have a few less independent brigades and are more focused around the home guard regiments. Basically, the home guard regiments there's 124 of these fuckers. 363 battalions. That's pretty impressive. Like, you're like, oh my god, that outstrips all the state. Okay, time out here. Their job is not to be very good. They don't have any mechs usually.
They're militia / terrorist cells.
Yes. These are your militia forces. These are your conventional, like, we gave this guy a space AK and 10 days of training. That's these guys.
Everyone on the planet gets a space AK and 10 days of training like Enver Hoxha, because that's how fucked the Confederacy is in terms of numbers.
They can be relocated, and they're also sometimes just security forces, like the police.
And
mercenaries,
mercenaries, which are not their bread and butter, but they're super, super well needed.
There's chartered mercenaries and unchartered. Chartered mercenaries are actually some of the best units in House Liao service. Like as I mentioned before, the Big Mac. These are the units that are very well motivated, very well paid, very well trained, and get first selection of a lot of stuff that would normally be going to Capellan army units.
But on the other hand, if you break its charter, you're immediately outlawed and executed and destroyed completely.
Yeah. On the other hand, you get all of the good shit, and the Capellans, if you, at the end of the contract, choose not to re-sign it, will just let you go. They are
Unlike
not going to...
They're at least
Unlike
not like
Kurita. Unlike Kurita, they're not going to try to stab you in the back for leaving them.
If you're wondering, Randall, Kurita are the psychotic Japanese, like, not even weeb, like, they believe they're the true descendants of Japan, even though a lot of them are literal fucking weeaboos. And one of the things they have is they ban mercenaries unless they're hired by the state, and the moment your contract ends, they will start shooting you on sight. Because you're not officially with the state anymore.
Mercenaries.
That means you're an outlaw.
Death to mercenaries.
So when the nation... Oh, by the way, the founder of this state, the Capellans, was a anarchist terrorist who invented a fusion bomb to detonate on Beijing just because.
Because he was in Hong Kong.
He led a death cult in Nepal and murdered so many people, and then escaped into space to sell hot dogs for the rest of his life. I'm not
You're
even
joking
kidding.
about what? Wait, what? What?
Elias Liao was originally a philosopher and politician in the Hong Kong Free State.
A neo-lib shill, by the way.
Basically,
Yep.
When the Taiwanese, also known as the Offshore Chinese Republic, invaded them and took over Hong Kong, he moved back to Nepal with his wife's house to find himself, because, like, oh god, everything I know is gone now. He then comes out of Nepal, the head of a religious fanatic death cult, that proceeds to assassinate so many fucking people and then detonate a fusion bomb in Beijing.
That he made himself.
Cool!
There's debate over whether or not he ordered the fusion bombing of Beijing, but it probably did.
On top of that, he switched from neo-lib shill to hardcore, like, Ted Kaczynski-esque anarchist.
Now, on top of that, he then fought the world government for the next, like, 5 years in the mountains in the Himalayas until escaping into space.
As you do.
And then settling down at the age of 47. I want to know, he did all this, like, in a decade. At the age of 47, to raise horses and sell meat products.
It's like if
what he
Ted
did.
Kaczynski decided after prison to start a hot dog company.
Also, pray for Ted. He has cancer.
Oh.
Be gone, bot. Be gone, bot.
When I mean pray for Ted, I mean pray he dies faster.
Your
God
spam
damn.
bot. Be gone.
Anyway,
Subversives are important. Here's some there's insignias, but the warrior houses, these are important.
the warrior houses are honestly one of the coolest parts of House Liao. The warrior houses are essentially they get to wear the long katana badge.
Which, if you're wondering, it's a triangle with a kind of hand and a katana that goes out of the triangle.
Basically, they get to wear this as part of their unit insignia, which is the symbol of House Liao. Pretty important,
You
pretty
can't
sweet.
do otherwise.
They are special combined infantry mech regiments.
Which is rare. They don't usually do,
Mhm.
most places don't do this.
Yes. Basically, they are infantry that are also trained alongside of it, and they start young. Basically,
Child soldiers.
child soldiers. Yes. So a warrior house will find people that they think look good out of like the philosophy. They have the like philosophy. They have all that. They'll be inducted in the warrior house at age 12 and start to be taught. They will teach, train, care, direct, personal, individual, inoculate
It's
their
basically they
philosophy.
become squires. And if you're wondering why, what happened was one of their megalomaniacal psychotic chancellor emperors
Go to a
briefly
knightly order.
joined a knightly order called the Knights of Lorix, who, by the way, were immediately banned not even 20 years after they were formed. And he's like, I want this to be pushed.
So there are 8 houses, by the way. They're weird because they are a mix of basically a specialized infantry battalion of commandos.
Knightly order and religious cult.
No, they're kind of fun. So the houses also have to take personal vows of loyalty to the state and to the person of the chancellor. Kind of neat. Now there's 8 of them. House Imara, House Kamada, House Hiritsu, House Lusan, House Daidachi, House Fujita, House Masaki, and House Ijori.
You just need to know they exist, to be honest.
Now this gets into the next section, the Death Commandos. So you know how I mentioned that the warrior houses are like the cream of the crop of the Liao military in many ways?
Yeah?
The Death Commandos are basically the cull personnel out of the warrior houses, and if you're a fanatical motherfucker, you get to be a Death Commando.
So
they receive their orders directly from the Chancellor. This is the Death Commando regiment is essentially they are the Death Commandos. They are the most fanatical motherfuckers possible. This is like those like special forces units that were like trained by North Korea to infiltrate the South and try to kill the South Korean president. That's these guys.
The best way to describe them is you're like a knight who believes your mech is your sea and you're the best, and you have this weird religious cult about that, right? Where you're the best, you can only be killed by other knights, i.e. mech warriors. These are the guys that also scream blood for the blood god, no, blood for the chancellor, kill for Liao, kill for Liao, like just screaming, frothing at the mouth in psychotic euphoria.
They take a blood oath. Basically, if they ever waver, their brothers are expected to fucking execute them on the spot.
They're literal lunatics.
Now, they also have a rad paint scheme, so that's also fun. But like, they get provided with special equipment, often at the expense of other more senior regiments. They operate as infiltrators, as demolitions experts. They're basically a combination of Navy SEALs and Top Gun.
It's weird they call a katana when it should be a dao. Aw, Haltz, you thought that these weird white guys know anything about Chinese weaponry?
They barely understand Japan, man.
Oh god, this Capellan trooper has a fucking crossbow. In the era where laser weapons are a thing, I'm gonna use this crossbow.
House Liao, that's a Death Commando. Death Commandos are trained to use shit like that as just as a flex, basically. We can kill you with like antiquated technology. We don't need las guns and suppressed weapons. We just bring a fucking crossbow.
I return to monkey and still kill you.
Basically, yeah. as I mentioned, they're fucking crazy. Hardest of the fucking hard, really, of the Liao military are the Death Commandos.
Oh my god, look at these subhuman monstrosities in the Maskarova. You have Norris before he became the Thing.
You have... Oh my god, it's
Horrible-
Craig! It's Craig from Halo Infinite!
It is?
This is Craig before he went on tour, guys.
And Hibbity Jibbity Prospector Man, who provides good old-fashioned country nonsense.
That is 100% Craig. That is fucking Craig.
So we have Norris from The Thing, Craig from Halo, and Hibbity Jibbity Prospector Man from Blazing Saddles. That's their spy agency headmasters at the moment.
Masterovka is one of the more feared intelligence agencies in the sphere. Because they have a fucking brute that's been shaved down and given a fake afro and sunglasses carrying out their hits.
I brought medieval weapons to a mech fight in one. Yeah, pilot, that does happen with the Death Commandos. They've done that before.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they've rigged like Black Ops style exploding crossbow bolts with like fucking shaped tandem charges that they fire at like mech cockpits.
Oh no, I'm envisioning like they grapple hook their way on and just like fucking
like they do Titanfall shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them's done that. I mean, elementals do that sort of shit. So
Elementals
why not?
are, if you're wondering, they wear like little mech suits too. Like
yeah, they're like mobile. They're like Star Trek troopers, mobile infantry.
Mobile infantry from Star Trek.
From the book.
Yeah,
from the book of Starship Troopers, not the movie.
Or Space Marine
fun,
armor,
but
if you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, but they're not 7 feet tall. Well, I mean, they might be.
No, they are. No, they
ape-ish.
are like 7 feet tall. They're huge. They're fucking ripped.
The three ape-like races from 80s anime meet to talk about hiding in humanity. That's also fair. That's also fair. So, yeah, Mascarovka, these guys are masters at killing their own citizens or learning about how to kill the foreigners' citizens.
Yeah. And then there's militia regiments, which is basically just like supplemental forces.
So they provide uniforms, and we have mech warriors who look like... The best way to describe them, if you're still here, Randall, is they look like techno-barbarians because fighting in a mech suit is really hot. Like, you're burning alive. So they walk around in their underwear, usually, and thermal pants sometimes.
Yeah. Or just Speedos. Just...
If you ever need, like, a techno-barbarian caveman, use mech warrior art, and it usually works out just fine.
Well, they've sort of retconned this a bit now that, like, they've kind of gone away from that because they like the full body suits.
Because they're pussies.
It's just it's easier to do the art for a full body suit than it is for these weird 80s anime.
Well, it's also because they probably are kind of a bit afraid if they show female mech warrior pilots.
No, these are skin tight suits, motherfucker. They are showing off curves.
Okay, so they're still doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've gotten away from it because they don't want to show techno barbarians. So yeah, that's
It's also because
suits. Like it's not always exactly like that.
It's also because that was like the stuff that was shown in the Star League era.
By the way,
was these full body suits.
What's the weird nodes in this man's arms and thighs?
I'm guessing that those are either like for temperature control or just like extra diagnostic stuff that would be like on like he'd probably step into the mech and then he'd hook up other stuff to that for like to monitor his body temperature or something like that.
Armor officer. Again, I will say this. I really like the Capellans uniforms. They really pop.
Yep. Look at this sassy lady.
Yeah.
I like the helmet too. It's very Stormtrooper in a good way.
Yeah.
It's like a balaclava and like a respirator mixed together. Then you get the fun shiny silver on top of it.
It's the Shredder helmet. I'll get those turtles.
I'll get those turtles eventually. Infantry. Well, it's actually an aerospace fighter, I think. And then down below we have a very
aerospace pilot.
Yeah. And then we have a very bored infantryman in with his tank.
Well, no.
nearby.
This is him waiting for the village festival before opening fire because they have rebelled against the glorious Confederation.
They have disobeyed the Chancellor, and thus they must be purged for the
No,
Confederation.
they advocated family first, and this was their final warning.
Die.
This was their final warning.
This is focus on the family's final holdout, and he's about to burn it to the ground.
Death Commandos do have jump infantry. Yeah, I could totally see them
Yeah.
just whipping around on a fucking like grappling hook style of Batman. So yeah, support
Okay.
personnel, battle mech regiments. Yes, the Capellan Hussars, which were violently exterminated for good reason.
Because they were the they're back though. They've been taken back. So they usually use Thunderbolts and Orions for very good heavy battle mechs. They even give you commander names in this book, which I think is actually quite neat.
That is an exception rather than the norm.
Yeah. Mostly because there's less Capellan units. There's also the Blood Guards, which are Maximilian's personal guard, and they accompany him at all times, challenging anyone who comes within 50 yards of their charge without permission. This trooper holds an England Mango Plus rifle with 10mm slugs coated with cyanide.
You say that, but I just know why they called it the Elegant Mango. They were trying to do a Mosin Nagant kind of vibe.
Yeah, the Elgin Mango, which what a fucking
terrible
name.
But I like it.
Holy shit.
The Elegant Mango. That sounds like something you'd
The
eat
Elegant
on a plane.
Mango.
It's like the moist nugget.
That's like a bar name you'd go to.
The Elegant Mango.
It's like
I can
this
see it. That sounds like
it's like an awful tiki bar.
Yeah, like a tiki bar mixed with like a cabaret.
You see the owner visibly drunk doing lines of coke in the fucking back. There's drunk wine moms picking a fight with the bartender. You hear horrible luau music playing on a broken fucking jukebox. The smell of urine emanates from the pool because they have a small pool too.
Yeah. So on to the Prefectorate Guard. There was a
basically these guys guard the guys that can kind of provide suggestions and or pick the Chancellor.
Yeah. They also supported Maximilian's coup.
Because he was not the chosen one.
No, he was not. Anyway, the Grenadiers are the next. Blandford's Grenadiers. They don't really matter. The Northwind Highlanders. This is one of the first of the very important mercenary regiments that the Capellans have in service.
Basically, they're chartered and everything, so they've been working with them for a while.
So there's the Marians Highlanders, which are the bad boys of the Northwind. They're the best known and least disciplined. They like Highlanders, no surprise. They like Blackjacks and Vindicators. They're also best known for being, well...
They've been around forever.
Yeah, they contributed to the original Blackwatch, actually. Anyway,
bold of you to assume I know what any of this means.
The Blackwatch was the Royal Guard of Starleague.
To assume that I know what 20% of what he's talking about means.
Blackwatch was the original Royal Guard of the Starleague.
Basically, if you're wondering, the guys at FASA were Scotaboos because Highlander came out.
And also, take a look at this. This is one of their regimental dancers. But she also serves as a surgeon's assistant. So,
McCormick's Fusiliers.
Whatever.
You see the Tartans and
Yeah,
they're Scotaboos.
Yeah.
And then you get the Chris Kearney Highlanders on the next page.
They're so pussy they didn't even. Oh, they did give him a tartan. They're so pussy
they
didn't give him a kilt.
They gave him a tartan and the bagpipes. Then there's Chesterton Reserves. The Ariana Fusiliers. Well,
these are just planets that are kind of important. Basically, if you need information, like, let's say you're doing a Battletech game. These are, if you're dealing with the Capellans, like you're working alongside them, these are guys you might run into, like during a battle.
Yep. And then you get like the
Kingston. There's a Dancy lady who I guess is from Hamilton's Highlanders. Basically, there's a lot of Scottish people.
I think she's from the Voltigeurs, actually.
Because there's an arrow pointing to the Hamiltons.
Oh yeah, you're right. Hamilton's
Basically,
Highlanders, a female Highlander dancing a jig over Federated Sun's flag. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a complicated emblem. I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to try that on anything.
Federated Suns are one of the big powers. They're basically the Ultramarines in the setting, Randall.
All right.
They're kind of
there's-
vaguely British.
So the big nerds.
Yeah.
They kind of, especially since they're working with the corrupt trading happy merchant Germans.
Then you have the Liao reserves, which are the reserves basically.
They're they're militia usually.
Militia or supporting units.
I
They
love that spider with the trident. That's pretty neat.
I like the spider with the trident. There's a unicorn. The Tikhonov reserves, which have a couple of different emblems, including a scorpion on the Liao background.
And the two revolvers!
Pair of revolvers.
Yep.
I think that is the Cares Intruders, which is part of Tikhonov's reserves.
If you're wondering what Tikhonov is, so Randall, in the setting, they go into a lot of details about states that formed before the 5 great powers, the 5 houses, the 5 big nations.
Yep, the big boys.
So, the Capellans, which are the space Chinese, they were formed from the Capellans, which were actually not necessarily Chinese. Xi'an, which is where crazy terrorist Elias decided to settle. Xi'an was his home. Tikhonov, which is where the Soviet Union stuff came from, and the industry. And Sarna, which is India.
Ooh.
So it's basically if you combine China, Russia, and India with a bit of Scotland thrown in.
Wow.
Then we get
all right.
So remember that guy that I mentioned that purged all this?
Yep.
So if you skip a couple of pages, so first off, you get St. Ives Armored Cavalry with a drawing of a centurion.
St. Ives
which is a
I
classic
think the
mech.
Scottish area.
St. Ives is actually also sort of Chinesey, but they also became independent for a while. They're kind of fun. Moving on through them, you get this motherfucker down here. This is Pavel Redzik.
Yeah, he's from the Capellan Confederation. He's a senior colonel. Redzik, by the way, is known for being a problem solver. He's killed a lot of motherfuckers.
He solves problems. He's a troubleshooter. He shoots trouble. He just he exterminated an entire group of religious zealots. Well, not even religious zealots, pacifists, basically.
So there's 2 things in the Capellan space you have to care about. 1, the state above all, and 2, the elite's rule. His response to dealing with a pan-humanist hippie cult who are like, we're all going to be one man under one great state.
Gas him.
Well, here's the thing. He was okay with it until he heard, and we're going to lead it. And his response was to exterminate them to a man.
By pretending to be
virus bombs and just straight up Einsatzgruppen.
Yeah.
Wow. This man is the king of based.
Well, the Capellans as a whole love using things like virus bombs and atomic bombs. They basically fight with war crimes in mind. They fight like raged wombats.
I want to note this. So he is an honorary member of Amara, House Amara. And he has a handcrafted as a token of his appreciation. Because he is the second in command of all Capellan armed forces.
If you're wondering, Amara is one of the 8 warrior houses. They're basically the knightly orders that the Capellans allowed to stay because they said state first.
Yes. Well, more accurately, they created them to provide a backbone for their forces.
Well, a better warrior. It was just an experiment to make a better warrior.
And it kind of played out, really. Not perfectly, but it did pay out. So they also mentioned that he has one of 2 Tikhonov Mark 6 heavy laser pistols. The only other such weapon belongs to the Chancellor himself.
Mainly because the planes were lost.
Or it was just a special make. Then there's the Capellan Reserves, which, again, the reserves are basically just the group from your area, your commonality.
Your militia boys.
Basically, these are your commonality regiments. Sort of like how...
Then we get to McGregor's Armored Scouts.
McCrimmon's Light Cavalry, McGregor's Armored Scouts. They're kind of
the mercenary McCarran's. That's what.
Then we get to McCarran's Armored Cavalry, the Big Mac.
If you're wondering why this is important, look at this guy.
Look at this dude.
What page?
He's the Juggernaut. He's at 96.
Page 96. They've updated this logo since now, but this logo as
my god!
This is the lair without his tabard.
Oh, it looks like a chode.
It's glorious.
I like it. The most celebrated
unit.
unit.
It's even oozing.
That's the Capellan triangle in the background there, actually.
No, they've been part of his head. He's erupting.
That's a plume. That's a plume.
Yeah, I know, but it looks like blood or something jerking out of like a deformed micropene. Look, the shoulders are the ball sack, and it's like Benito's. It's Benito's dick.
Benito, if you're wondering, is the person I knew. He was very embarrassing. He revealed a lot of things he never should have. It's so rare if he was special needs. Volcano helmet, yeah.
So,
they're called Big Mac for a reason if you can't tell.
I also want to know, which is really nice, is that they do know what battle mechs they use. So if you want to model their forces, you can easily say like, oh, they have a lot of these. But, that's nice. But anyway, the Big Mac is one of the most famous units in Battletech history. It is one of those units that has popped up in a lot of different things. They've served with every successor state. They finally arrived with the Capellan Confederation in 2996, after, again, a long history of kicking ass and taking names. They fought the Free Worlds League. They fought for Kurita. They managed to fight.
They served House Davian for a good while.
Yeah, and then they ended up in the Kurita, and then they found out that running a mercenary unit this big with 5 regiments.
Which is
I want to know this.
insane.
Most mercenary units don't go beyond a company.
These are 5 regiments.
These are 5 full fucking regiments. This is a serious force. In the setting, like this is the same level of the Wolf's Dragoons in terms of the amount of men under service. Sorry, the Wolf's Dragoons are another massive mercenary unit.
So let's start simple. There are, I forget the smallest term for a Battletech unit. A blade?
A lance, which is 4 mechs.
Then a company is 3 of those.
Yeah, company is 12 mechs, similar to how a company is in most armored forces. I don't know how big a
battalion is.
A battalion is essentially a battalion is 3 companies.
So the average mercenary unit is just 12 mechs. A battalion is 36. There are there's like
there's 3 battalions per regiment, so that's 108 mechs.
108 mechs, by the way.
That's
Battletech
a force.
Does rely a lot on Gundam for a lot of its inspiration. The reason they have 108, if you're wondering, is that's how many Xeon mobile suits, I believe, were at the Battle of Odessa.
It's also because it's just 36 times 3.
108 is gigantic.
Yeah, it's 108 mechs can be expected to take most of a world.
This unit's 10 times bigger than your average mercenary unit. There's a reason they were called the Big Mac.
Yeah, that's the reason why they're nicknamed.
This thing could win a war by itself. Not
they
a war,
can.
But a battle by itself.
They have, and they're most famous for deep raiding. The other thing is that when they were hired, they're
not only that, they have basically a division of soldiers too to support them.
Yes,
you're getting a full army with these guys.
Yeah. Now, the Big Mac has also done long raids into enemy territory. They're very famous for that. They've also fought like hell with basically everyone. And they are the favorite mercenary unit of House Liao for a very good reason. They take their pay, they're willing to fight dirty, and they don't ask questions about where they're getting their equipment or why was the pay like covered in blood? They don't ask those questions. They just take it.
So these are your perfect deniable assets.
Well, no, because they're basically a house unit at this point.
Well, I mean, they're your perfect. You need something dead, like deep in enemy lines. You send them.
They're basically like I guess you could call them they're House Liao's fire brigade. If there's a problem, the Big Mac is going to be on the way to deal with it.
So we have to kind of go on about that because they're big in the media, and like there's a reason they have a whole page dedicated to them.
Oh my god! Remember the guys, the crab we saw earlier? We're gonna get to see those in a little bit.
So
So Laurel's Legion,
doesn't
not
matter.
very
None of
important.
these matter. Here's
None of these matter.
Marshigama's
Marshigama's Legionnaires. Unit insignia: a black crab with a white mohawk.
Yeah.
I was right. It was a crab with a mohawk. I was like, is that like a crab with like
and
a
it's
feather?
based literally on the Vane supermodel who became a Battletech, a mech pilot, just out of boredom, really.
A woman's beauty can down even the largest battle mech if she knows how to use it. What? The fuck?
For a model, she really has an ugly face.
Well, this is 80s Battletech. I love Michael's sermon though. Look at that like eye patch there, and he's got the trucker hat.
That's pretty good. Actually, doesn't it look like a really bad 80s sitcom like cast of characters here?
It does.
Yeah.
Like I could vision like the horns and saxophones playing as you just see them like in the background doing some stupid like pose.
Oh boy. The next page has some fantastic art too. So we're also gonna have to talk about the 4th Tau Ceti Rangers. This is actually a Star League unit that
He doesn't know what
defected.
Star. Okay, so Star League, because Tech assumes you
Look,
instantly know. what
I honestly don't care.
Like,
okay, basically it was the original United Earth Empire. They're dead now. It's fine, but they
Yeah.
came
Yep.
from here.
yeah, so the 4th Tau Ceti Rangers seceded from left them and decided to sell their services to mercenaries rather than join the Exodus with General Kerensky. Same thing with the 15th Dracon actually, but
By the way, you like how House
nobody cares
Liao is
about them.
slowly sending propaganda. Have children, produce.
Yeah, they
House,
the Tau Ceti.
the Capellans are very well known for propaganda, so yeah, that's full on propaganda. Have children.
I also want to note that much like the Big Mac,
Oh, look
the Tau
at
Ceti.
these embarrassing people on the next page.
Oh my god!
Miss Ningpo's
Look
face
at
is that of horror.
No, look at the dude next to him. Oh
Is
my
that-
god!
is
Look
that-
at
Oh
is-
my
look at
god!
that.
Oh my god! He's like a lion.
He looks like he looks like he's he looks like a YouTuber who
Yeah.
has
I'm
like
seeing I'm getting North England vibes. Like, hey, Sonders, like football.
I'm thinking he's like if you combined your average footy fan with the type of person who unironically supports the BNP. Like he
think you're right.
He probably advocate like on a YouTube channel where he talks about like
Well,
removing all the problems, like
He voted
solving
for
the
Sargon.
Welsh problem.
He voted for Sargon. That's this guy.
No.
Yeah.
He not only voted for Sargon, he's a Sargon imitator on YouTube.
No, not YouTube. BitChute.
He's on BitChute. He got banned for saying something really stupid, like I don't know.
The Welsh are subhuman.
No, that's
they
not
are,
what
but,
got
you
him. He started advocating like actual genocide. He looks like a person who
Genocide the
does.
Cornish.
Down
Genocide
with
the-
the Cornish occupied government.
He does look like a tinfoil poster. He probably does believe King Arthur like leads the government as a reptilian undead overlord witch or something.
Yeah. Anyway, they then go on to the training academies of them. So there's
No. Look at this man in his kimono that's 1,000 sizes too large for him.
I know. This was art I think was originally intended for the Kurita, and they're like, can you just color it green because we need more Liao art.
Because no one cares for Liao. We need art. None of the artists care.
I do like their medals though.
So yeah, martial training academies are for these are the schools you go to if you, well, not if, when you serve.
Yeah.
You're
And if
trained
you show
there
promise-
for militia, and if you show promise, you're usually convinced to join the army.
Mm-hmm. So the military decorations, there's the Sunburst of Gallantry, which looks kind of nice. The Grand Cordon of Merit, which reminds me of the Three Mountains achievement from EU4.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, you can see it too, can't you?
yeah, I can. This actually does look dead up like
The Seal of Ryukyu.
Not only the Seal of Riku, but these do remind me of Chinese war medals, particularly from World War II. I really like the look. Liao has some of the
They
best medals
nailed
I've
it,
seen.
yeah. There's the Luster of Conspicuous Heroism. There's the Baton of Illustrious
That I
Service, where
like.
if
That's something that
they'll give you a baton.
I like that.
Yeah. There's a citation. There's
Foodie
a
Fed
civic
mixed
seal
with
of
Sargon. Yeah, that deformed motherfucker does look like he reviews. He probably does British style mukbangs where he eats like a gross amount of shepherd's pie.
And this is actually the first display of an actual battle mech crunch in one of these books, by the way, when we come in here. So, in a vicious circle, forced drawings by disorganized Capellan military led to the destruction of Capellan factories, which in turn led to more setbacks, so on and so forth. So they're kind of behind technologically to some degree, but also not. They're one of the few people that are actually researching old Star League technology at this point and managing to get prototypes into the field.
This was them trying to. This was right on the cusp of them doing the refounding, the revival of Discoveries.
The Helm Memory Core.
The Memory Core. This
was
is
coming
them doing
soon.
that.
This is a little bit before that, but this is actually a good example of
Preview.
a preview. Not really, because this was an older mech. The Vindicator is the only one that came off of out of the Star League, in the Succession Wars. The only one that came out of Capellan Space for new mechs was the Vindicator. There's a few Capellan variants, but other than that, this is the Vindicator. It's actually one of the better medium mechs the game has at its era. Okay, to give you a summary, let me sum this up to you very quickly. So first off, it's got 16 total heat sinks. You can see a PPC generates 10 heat. It has a PPC.
What is that?
It can
again?
jump. Particle projector cannon. So it can jump and move and fire that PPC and not have to worry about heat, which
That's
is
a beam
really
weapon,
nice.
for those wondering.
It can fire that in the LRM while jumping and not worry about heat from long range. When things get closer, it's got a couple of lasers it can go pew 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 with.
And if you're
It's
wondering
got
what LRMs are, that's missiles, long range missiles.
long range missiles. If it's jumping, it's got pretty good armor for its torso. It can take a couple PPC blasts to the chest without worrying too much. Hell, it could take a Gauss rifle slug to the chest and
Basically,
still keep ticking.
Its torso is pretty fine, and its legs are also pretty reserved.
Its legs are pretty good.
The head and
Arms
are not. Well, head's okay.
It's got head's actually the maximum armor value for the head in any battle mech, and the legs are solid enough. My legs are okay.
Arms are a bit light, but that's fine.
It actually has, I think, the maximum amount of armor you can fit on a 45-ton mech. It's not a bad design. Its only downside, it's kind of slow. It's jump capable. It's got very good firepower for a mech its size, and it's got a lot of long-range firepower when you consider it's a 45-ton jumping mech with a lot of armor.
So anyway, yeah, for those of you who wondered and watched our No Good Horrible Mech Night, this is how they usually stat out mechs.
This is how they display it. So they'll show you the internal structure.
Well, some of you are
engine.
fans, a lot of you are fans of Battletech. Tech is trying to explain and assumes that a guy who only reads their lore so far, and Randall, who literally is looking at this going, what the fuck is this shit?
I'm only half listening to this, I'll be honest.
Okay, so weight classes matter in terms of how much you can shove on stuff. 45
Makes
tons
sense.
is on the lighter, is kind of a lighter medium, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Movement points are how far you can move per round. It's like your movement in Warhammer, how many inches you do. Heat sinks is you lose heat is an economy token. The more heat on your mech, the worse it go.
Yep.
Okay, so basically everything you do with a mech generates heat unless you're standing absolutely still and firing no weapons. So you move, that's heat. You jump, that's heat. You fire weapons, that's heat. The more you fire and the more you use, the more heat you build up. You can go over your heat threshold by up to 4 points without suffering any penalties. Basically, this just means your mech warrior is feeling a little bit hot.
But after
once you start going beyond that,
mech starts failing.
The mech itself is starting to experience heat interference with like its sensors, because all the infrared sensors are now picking up the mech more than they are the enemy. Like that's so on and so forth.
Systems fail, movements fail.
Movement slows down. Your weapons are less accurate.
Your pilot might frickin' die.
Your pilot, depending on the rules you're playing on, your pilot might start to have to take survival checks as their life support system is starting to struggle to handle the amount of heat that your fusion engine is generating.
And if it gets hot enough, you just explode.
Cool.
And worse, if you hit a certain threshold, which is 30 points above your heat sink limit on a single turn, your mech just flats out shuts down. hell, if you reach certain points before that, if your pilot's not good enough, your mech will just shut down because they just can't keep it operational at this hot of a temperature, so they hit that emergency shutdown button.
Or it
Is how
explodes.
that's
It just straight
represented.
up explodes.
Or it explodes because the ammo gets so fucking hot, it starts to detonate, starts a chain reaction, and takes out your mech.
Funnily enough, Randall, in this setting, machine guns and any slugger ammo is a literal detriment on these things.
Because of how the explosion rules work. So BattleTech has a weird experience in machine guns, because machine guns actually have quite a bit of ammo for BattleTech weapons.
Which
They
is
have 200
nice.
rounds per ton, which is kind
Yeah.
of nice, and also represents the fact that if you can fit a lot of fucking 50 cal on a 15-ton robot,
Which is
you know,
mostly good
like,
at killing humans, but hey, that's fine.
it
That's
can
what
chip
House
away at
Liao
mech
likes
armor.
using him for.
Yeah, it can chip away at mech armor. But the problem is with how the damage rules for explosives are calculated in BattleTech.
Like,
So
let's say you have explosives hiding in your lower torso.
let's say you have a leg in your knee. So if you don't have any armor, you can basically, what will happen is that oftentimes you're rolling for a critical hit. It's essentially a component of your mech is about to get damaged. There's
Yep.
also through armor critical hits, but we're not going to discuss those. When this damage is taken and it's rolled on a location, which is why they display all that equipment there to say this is where this equipment is, there's a chance that something is going to break, and it's something vital. Usually this is going to be, if in some mechs it's like, oh, it's a heat sink, that's not too bad. Oh, I lost maybe one of my 5 lasers, that could be sucky. It
Oh
hits
no.
the ammo. This is when it gets bad.
Yeah.
Early BattleTech operated on the logic that humanity has forgotten about things such as blowout panels and magazine containment. So
So you
Oh.
remember the
mechs.
British battle cruisers at Jutland going up like matchboxes?
Yep.
So basically,
Mechs can do that.
and a lot of mechs also had this in the center torso. Now, this meant that a through armor critical could detonate a 70-ton mech just immediately. It's just gone.
To give you an idea, a tiny little baby mech doing that is ridiculous. Or just some asshole.
It's so
some
funny.
Asshole.
It's so funny. Like, it's a couple of infantry that are shooting at you with like a field gun, like a little AC-2 from like half a mile away. It hits your mech.
Pack 37, like a little 37
millimeter cannon, like a 37 millimeter cannon. They've dragged out of storage. You fire this highly expensive war machine through armor critical.
Fucking
It hits
explodes.
the ammo. The mech explodes.
Killing you.
Now the reason why, because theoretically, if you're going through a lot of your ammo pretty quickly, you can actually survive plenty of ammunition explosions on a tough enough mech, depending on where the ammo is. If it's in the center torso, you're pretty fucked. But if it's like in the leg or like the arm
what might
or
happen is you lose an arm or a leg
or one of the torsos, you could theoretically survive that without later technology that's added into the game. But originally, as rules are written, basically for every shot. For every shot in the ammo ton that goes off, it does as much damage equal to the weapon that would be firing it, according to the ammo. So basically, say I've got an AC-10. An AC-10 does 10 damage. Per ton, an AC-10 carries 10 rounds. So if I say got really unlucky and an AC-10 hit
in the first round, in the first round, you don't get first. The guy shoots your AC-10 ammo storage.
You take 100 damage, which is going to kill most mechs, but there's a few that can survive that. Like, it's theoretically survivable. Yeah, it's you straight up take 100 damage in that location, and then it spreads out from there. Now, theoretically, that's survivable for some mechs, or you've emptied most of that, and you've got like 2 rounds.
If you're lucky,
left
let's say you have 2 rounds, you might survive.
You take 20. I mean, you'll probably lose a bunch of armor, and you'll take like your pilot's going to get injured from it, but it's not the worst. Like, it's survivable. So, machine gun ammo, however, remember this: you can only fire 1 round of ammunition a turn unless you're using certain rules, which are like additional. You have 200 rounds of ammunition per ton. A machine gun bullet does 2 damage,
which is the minimum.
Ooh.
If you're wondering, you see in weapons and ammo LRM5, that means long range missile 5 damage.
Well, 5 missiles. Which
5 missile?
Each LRM does 1 damage. Each SRM does 2 damage.
Okay.
This is because basically so
different from ammo, from guns.
Yeah.
So
guns represents the damage.
AC2.
Yeah. This would be like an AC2 shot. Like an AC2 shot, but it's really
Auto
short range, but it gets bonuses.
Damage.
Yeah. but it does like really good against infantry. So
So
the machine gun
let's say
hits
in the
you.
first round, your machine gun has 200 rounds.
You are driving a Warhammer, and it's your first game of BattleTech. Warhammer, the default
It's a
Warhammer
big fucking
has
mech. You know, it has big
it's a
fucking mech
70
with a
it's a
lot of
70-ton
ammo.
mech. It has a lot of firepower on it. It's got 2 PPCs. It's got an
good.
SRM-6. It's got 2 machine guns, and it's got 2 medium lasers. It's really good as a mech for a new player. It's got a lot of options. You can play around with it.
Yep,
It's really fun.
you have shooty, you have laser guns, which are really good and
And you have big pew pew.
and you got missiles, which are nice, especially in
Yeah,
close range.
it's nice at close range. Short range missiles also can randomly select targets, so that this means that you can get lucky and critical somebody with any of those shots.
So
Really nice.
You go in and like some asshole,
There's a
asshole in a
locust.
tank.
There's a locust.
A locust
There's a
is
locust.
the tiniest. It's like a little baby mech. It's a
20-ton mech. All it's got compared to your
It's a chicken
massive
walker.
firepower. Yeah, it's a chicken walker. It's got a medium laser and a pair of machine guns.
It's
And
garbage.
it turns and it shoots you with like those machine. It misses with everything but one of those machine guns. That guy rolls a 12. Then he rolls a 12 again.
That's double. That's critical.
That's a critical. That's a through armor critical onto your central torso, where your machine gun ammo is.
By the way,
you
a
roll
locust, if
badly.
you're wondering, only weighs like I think 15 tons.
20 tons.
20 tons.
So it weighs 50. It weighs 50 tons less than your mech.
It's
and
cheap
it is
and garbage.
It is cheap and incredibly garbage, and that it's close enough to use the machine guns on you means that this player is probably pretty bad with a locust. It's pretty.
It's
that
really
locust
terrible.
is about to die in the next round.
But he rolls the max. He rolls a 12, which is critical. Consults again, critical. It goes through your armor.
He rolls a 12 for hit location, so it's a critical hit on the center torso. He rolls a 12 again. It's a through armor critical hit on your torso. And he's hitting 3 locations with it. He gets to roll on your table 3 times. This is bad, because it means that he can theoretically kill your mech in 1 round. Because he can do 2 hits to the gyro, your mech basically falls over, can't do anything.
You're lucky.
He doesn't. It dies.
You're lucky. He doesn't hit your engine or gyro. He just
on the first roll, he hits your ammunition. And now your mech's dead. With the force of a furious suns, your mech takes 400 damage to the center torso. There is no mech in the game that can carry 400 points worth of damage on the center torso. That is simply impossible.
That is how your pilot. That's how your pilot dies
instantly. Because if your ammunition explodes and your center torso goes, it is considered a pilot kill because your pilot simply does not have time to eject.
So you're playing your first beautiful game. You got your giant mech boy and a little chicken walker, like 1/3 your size, like runs up to you because that player is equally bad. And your giant expensive mech explodes instantly.
And you are now the saltiest motherfucker in the galaxy. There's a reason why.
Like the locust isn't terrible at scouting and running around. But you don't run up into combat with it. It's a chicken walker. Your fucking mech could just kick it and it'd fall over.
It would basically, if you kicked a locust with a warhammer,
it would die.
That locust is in a world of pain.
That's how. It's like Mike Tyson beating up a small child.
But then the small child pulls out like a fucking Glock and just caps Mike Tyson like with a Mozambique drill. That's the equivalent scenario we're talking here.
Amazing.
Up next is, as I said, Battletech can be really fun and really stupid at the same time.
It's why, besides Mordheim, it's the only one I'm kind of remotely interested in trying.
Next up is actually a light mech, the Raven. I like the Raven. The Raven's an ECM machine.
Anything under 45 tons is considered light.
Anything under 40, actually.
Anything under 40. So this is the heavy end of light.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good 35-ton mechs.
Fast.
Yeah, it moves at a 6.
Its heat sinks are smaller, but it's a small chicken walker. Actually, you see the little chicken walker right there. There he is.
Yeah. It also carries a very interesting mix of weapons here.
So it carries for its size.
It's okay armored. It's not like great, but it's okay.
I mean,
the main thing though is its weaponry.
Maximum, so.
Its weaponry is 2 medium lasers and SRM-6. There's other 35-ton mechs. Hell, there's 25-ton mechs that are better armed than this thing. But the main thing it's carrying is ECM equipment. This is new. This is new to the setting, actually. I think this is the first time it's mentioned, because everybody and their mother had been fighting over Star League Tech and had lost a lot of it. One of those things was ECM equipment. The Capellans, on their own, managed to redevelop, admittedly a bigger, bulkier version of it, but they managed to actually develop ECM equipment again. on their own.
Explain what ECM equipment is.
Electronic countermeasures, basically jamming gear. So that you can, basically this means that like, oh, your mech thinks you have a lock on me? No, it doesn't. You can't see me.
My
I'm an
chicken
invisible boy.
walker's plug walking and crypt dancing as it shoots you. And you can't do
You're
shit.
having, yeah, like, oh, you think you can target me indirectly? Guess what? You can't. Your target designator gets fucking scrambled by me. So
Yeah,
I can
your
just,
missiles, they're shooting you now.
oh yeah, like you're trying to hit me with artillery. That artillery has no idea what you're targeting. It might actually hit you.
Why do you think that chicken is dancing? It knows.
It's just, yeah, it knows what's coming. The next one is the cataphract. The cataphract is a bit of a Franken mech.
It's a big boy. Like it looks like a stupid, dumb chicken walker too, but 70 tons is pretty heavy.
70 tons. It's about as fast as the Vindicator, but it's heavily armored as well. It's got an autocannon 10 with 2 tons of ammunition.
That's
PPC.
10 damage per shot. Pretty good. It has
And
an AC 20 gun too.
it has no. That's the ammo for the autocannon. Ammo autocannon.
It has a particle gun in the center, which is pretty powerful.
This is actually this design is actually illegal because they fucked up with how the ammunition is counted. There's not 20 rounds for that autocannon. It should be 10.
It is now.
It is now, but
the
yeah, it actually
Capellans
doesn't
invented
have
space-time pockets.
It doesn't have a huge amount of armor at only 11 tons for its size, but it's respectable. It's about as good as a Warhammer, honestly. A little less armor.
They had to make something as good as that.
Yeah. The main problem with it is it has 2 medium lasers that are facing backwards in the default. So if something sneaks up behind you,
firing, yeah.
if it hits basically 2 medium lasers, an AC-10, and a PPC at generally that's a pretty decent.
That's a good
front
heavy
armament.
Mech. That's a good.
But
I
then
can kick your ass.
But then you're wasting 2 tons of armor of weapons on rear-facing medium lasers. Usually, what would happen is that both players would agree that those are actually forward-facing to make things a little bit easier.
Basically, your chicken mech has butt cheek
has
armor.
been basically your chicken mech. Both players agree that the chicken mech actually those lasers that should be facing rearward have been modified in the field to be on the shoulders. There you go.
Somebody say chicken nuggets? Oh boy, I am starving.
Hey Biggs, we're talking about Capellan mechs.
Which one are we on right now?
We're on the cataphract actually, but we're just finishing them off.
What a stupid name.
The cataphract. Well, cataphracts were the heavy armored horsemen of the Byzantines and a lot of eastern states. Yeah.
Sounds like cataracts.
It's based on the Persian heavy cavalry.
Yeah. This guy isn't quite as good as one of those. He's not quite fast enough, but the cataphract's an interesting design because it's a Franken mech. It was literally built out of spare parts that they had laying around from other mechs they couldn't produce full models of.
We found it.
Did we talk about how the Capellan war machine was so fucked at one point they literally had to resort to using goddamn urban mechs for a majority of their force?
Yeah, that's how bad the wars got for them. Basically, since they fought to the nines, the other nations kind of looked at them and said, okay, well, we don't see you as human no more. Eat this.
Eat the nukenings. Eat the nukenings. And went most of their industry.
They didn't sign the Ares Convention. Isn't that right?
Well, the Ares Convention was tossed out the window after Starlight.
But the Ares Convention was created because House Liao is run by a bunch of insane people. Its founder was an anarchist terrorist that made a nuclear bomb to destroy.
Yeah, I know that, but if I remember correctly,
it was written in response to one of House Liao causing a mass genocide on a planet.
I know, but if I remember correctly, didn't the Ares Convention? They didn't sign the Ares Convention, and that's
Taurus. No, the Taurus Confederation didn't sign it. Sorry, the Taurian Concordat didn't sign it because they looked at it and they said, well, Liao's signing this, and we can't trust Liao to keep any of their bargains, so we're not signing it. Guess what happened when Liao declares war on the Taurian Concordat? They immediately say, we don't have to sign. Yeah, basically. However, this also meant that the Taurians could use nukes on the House Liao, and it kind of ended pretty badly for the Capellans. They got 3 systems out of the deal, and they were irradiated hellholes.
Taurian Concordat. How bad do you have to be to loosen the goddamn periphery?
Exactly.
Pretty bad. There's a reason Capellans are the weakest of them, despite their weird Soviet juche state.
The Capellans are really bad on the offensive. They're pretty damn good on the defensive, honestly. They will spend bodies like currency to hold ground.
And they can do it because they have militias that are very quickly assembled. They have mercenaries. They're really good at that sort of stuff. They're the only ones with logistics. Well, strong logistics, I should say.
Part of that's because they're so small. They can actually manage it.
Here's House Liao, where where you get to see some of the family members. They look like they're trying out for a Japanese anime or a manhwa from Korea.
Yeah, we're not going to talk too much about the house because we got the culture and the arts. The average Capellan citizen is held to be a citizen of greater humanity, and we're already almost on that 3-hour mark.
Jesus, and we actually tried.
Yeah. But basically, there's two statuses of Capellans. There's
Native
Capellan
born
citizens and not Capellan citizens.
and
If you're native
non-natives.
born, you actually don't become a citizen at birth. You can't. You have to test into citizenship.
The Ministry of
citizen-
Social Education
Yeah.
regulates it. Yeah.
Now, you can also lose citizenship for treason, crimes against the state, cowardice under fire, as interpreted by, of course, the Chancellor, and then you're revoked to the status of servitor, or sent to a prison planet. Now, that being said, it's still not the worst, because, like, Korea's even more fucked, but it's still pretty fucking bad.
And then there's the
there's a-
non-native ones where nobles who join them because there's reasons sometimes.
Yeah, like, hey, they're offering me money. You have to pay a relocation fee, and you can become a noble here. Yay!
It's lower than the rank you had at home, but that's fine.
Yeah, and if you are taken as a prisoner, you can become a Capellan citizen after 5 years.
On top of that, if you have medical knowledge already, or what was the other one? Technical skills, they'll take you on, no questions. Well, questions asked, but in the background, looking at you.
Also, unions are forbidden. This is the Republican wet dream. There are no unions. Mandated by law, you cannot organize a union. This is Bezos' dream.
Yeah, it's Bezos' dream.
Oh.
There's the court retainer who looks like a jester.
But yes, so essentially the
But anyway, the
caste,
important thing is the caste system, because Capellans
Yeah.
actually have a very, very firm caste system.
basically the directorship is bureaucrats and administrators. Intelligentsia is more of a social one, and basically if you're a good scientist or techie boy, you end up here. They are actually very well treated, along with religious leaders are often put into the intelligentsia. Supporters are educators,
Important
politicians,
state
economics.
apparati. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good
business
thing in the way-
leaders, as long as they're not, agitating against the state, they get afforded pretty wide privileges and rights.
Artists
And
beneath them, so they're still given quite a bit of leeway as long as their art does not intrinsically show disrespect to the state.
yeah,
And what page are we at again?
111,
12 now.
112, 100, and
Then there's
PDF
the
111.
entitled.
Which is basically just a subcast of the supporters, mostly noted for medical people. And then the commonality, which is essentially unskilled
Everyone
laborers,
else.
your average skilled laborers, basically like your general people that keep society functioning.
And then the lowest of the low
Then the
servitors.
servitors. They're not actually officially a caste, but they're the largest segment since the succession wars. They're second-class citizens, essentially slave labor. They do not get a say in where they go, because a Capellan citizen can ask for relocation. A servitor cannot. What is the difference between a citizen and a what was the Starship Troopers bit?
Oh, well,
Citizens.
actually, citizens, non-citizens, the only difference is they can't vote. They
Yeah,
actually
but
were
like
given
a
complete- they were
citizen, a
given freedom
civilian. That was the
otherwise.
line. Like a citizen understands their obligations to the state. A civilian does not, or something like that. Was their
Yeah,
the thing like
and that's kind of
well,
the logic, but taken to
to the extreme.
not only to the
this is
extreme, but to the kind of the logical extreme, because Heinlein tried
Yeah.
to be optimistic with Starship Trooper.
Yeah, children of servitors actually can become non-servitors. There's cases where a servitor can be legally owned by another citizen.
Tentative
are
slavery
cases-
is a thing, yeah.
They also you do have a chance theoretically to become a citizen in 10 years after you became a servitor. This rarely happens.
Basically, servitors are formed from a variety of castes. The most common of which is the Capellans got their shit wrecked a lot, and a lot of people were forced out of their standard planets just because of all the nukes. They most came from refugees from their prior worlds or from nearby worlds, but they also came from people they've
Raids.
captured, because the
Yeah.
Capellans basically their industry is propped by them.
Yeah.
It's
It's
why
also
they're
important
most
to note.
likely to collapse, probably.
Let's also note that Capellan life is actually, if you're not a servitor, it's pretty good.
You can own property. There's social
You can own
security.
Social Security. There's no restriction to the size of your household, and essentially, if you want to be the most flaming homosexual possible, the state does not give a shit. It's okay to be gay,
By the way, the
which is better
massive
than several.
slave cadres, though, were more of a result of all three Nukenings, though. Like
Yeah, basically, there were
that
so many
structure
people
was
that.
there, but it only became this distorted because of all the wars.
Yeah. Essentially, it used to be there were a lot more citizens. Now there's a lot less citizens because there's so many people that could be convicted of cowardice. So, you know.
Oh, and the guy here is a refractor. I like the Confucian hat that he has.
I like the little hat. I like the strange fringe as well on his robe.
Yeah, very well
And
designed.
he's got a electronic clipboard, a data saver, and a stylus. I have I'm okay.
So the education system, there isn't you have an elementary and secondary
Yeah.
school, but they're also
all at the state
indoctrinated.
expense. Yeah, like it's all at state expense, by the way.
Yep, and you're guaranteed up into that, and beyond there, you have the special schools where you learn trades. There's the martial academies, which you're kind of encouraged to join.
Yeah, there's the science foundation. They're actually, again, their science is
That's
not
another.
terrible.
If you want, don't if you're going to try to avoid being hit with cowardice, try applying to the technical schools.
Yep.
That'll
There's
usually
also
get you away from that.
There's also battle mech games on places like New Hessian and Westerhand, similar to Solaris, where they're often used to recruit and train mercenaries.
And corruption, don't forget the corruption. Yeah, well, I mean, it's very easy. You just pay House Liao money and you can get pretty far.
Yeah.
Philotechnique institutes are your main tech schools, and there's just a variety of them. We're going to try to breeze through because, sorry, there's a lot. They have arts, but their big thing is conformity.
Yes. Again,
There are
they're
limited
not.
cultural exchange groups, but it's really just follow the state mandates.
Yeah. It's also important to note that like Confederation life on the whole, if you're a citizen, is really not that bad. It's probably better than some of the other successor states.
It's just there's so many slaves nowadays that it kind of...
Yeah, you're less likely. The other thing too is that the traditions of the area and the fact that they've been at war so fucking often, like, yeah, there's problems, but they look at themselves and go like, like at least we're not Davians. Like that would suck.
At least
Can
we're
you
not the
imagine
Free Worlds League or Davian.
Yeah, and can you imagine the chaos if people could choose what they wanted to do? No, thank you.
So the thing is, modern Capellans are police state, and they have a lot of youth are under their employ, so you can't really trust your friends.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's also crazy radicals because more and more people are getting sick of this fucking status quo of all these wars. Oh my god, look at this horrifying...
It's a political cartoon.
100 Capellans pulling a wooden cart laden with a huge copper nail 50 feet long. Noble passes by and inquires what the nail is for. The foreman requires and replies, "Don't know, sir, but it fills our quota of 10 tons of nails for the week."
But yeah, they mentioned that like they go into this the Stalinist thing. The thing is that there are incentives for Capellan workers to actually produce. Like they do reward you for putting in effort. If you don't put in effort, you go to Gulag.
Hence the Stalin workplace hero thing in quotas.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that said, they've also got 4-year programs. They've got a lot of decisions that are made.
Soviet Union.
Yeah, it's nothing
like we have 50
complicated.
more pages. Holy shit.
Yeah, as I said, when I said that this book is weaker, it's because it spends a lot more time on the stuff that should be interesting. It just really isn't. It's just like,
distribution of wealth. Yeah, basically.
This is literally just the Soviet Union.
Yeah, it's Soviet Union. I hope you don't mind if we just kind of.
Yeah. Then they talk about like the corporations within it, like the banks, Earthworks Limited, which is important because they manufacture a bunch of shit. Callan Industries, which is important as well. They make the Rifleman, our best boy. Hellespont Industrials, also a massive manufacturer. They make a lot of the mechs coming up, and they also talk about how the Confederation is that it has a lot of growth, potential, but it's held back by Liao's doctrine, which emphasizes that centralized control and no real consumer industry.
Basically, they have to rely on state mandates more often, which is an issue.
Yeah, and then we get into personalities,
Which-
including this terrible picture of Maximilian. Holy fuck.
I mean, he's evolved beyond. He's evolved to Neanderthal in this one.
Neanderthal.
He has learned to hit with stick.
I want to note his special skills and powers. He's a master at hatching and executing plots, such as trying to clone one of the leaders of the other states and replace him with them.
Here's other members of the Liao. They have murder
Candace,
eyes.
who will go on to be an important character. Romano, who will go on to be the craziest fucking bitch in the galaxy, aside from her daughter.
Then there's Patrick.
Patrick Rivioli. I thought that said
Look
ravioli
at his
for a
sideburns
second.
and beard. Holy shit! What's wrong with you?
This is just Abe Lincoln.
He looks
It's
like
literally
a meth
Lincoln.
addict.
And they
It's
trace
meth Lincoln.
It's Lincoln on meth. They then have Lady Ling, which is another like thing, and then Elizabeth Jordan Liao, who just looks. I don't know how to describe her.
Screw you, Dad. That's what I feel in that expression.
Tormana Liao, who would actually get renamed to Tormano Liao because they realized that A is a feminine bit. He's kind of an interesting guy. He gets some stuff.
He also
done.
looks like a Cro-Magnon.
There's better art of him later on, and then there's Victor
the
Hargreaves,
who's from Chesterton, who's like, I want my stuff back. I want my
and then here's
merkins.
Ridzik. Ridzik's special powers. He's an aerospace fighter commander. He's a skilled mech warrior. He's very famous.
They
and
don't
powerful.
cover all the genocide he's headed.
Yeah, then there's a couple of other like mech warrior people. Then
The mother of a rule name in Death Call. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kavaj.
Kavaj, who is not really.
He looks like a serial killer.
Then Sean Ryan Teng, the Ripper, the Duke of Tikhonov.
He's your standard tin pot dictator under another tin pot dictator.
Yeah.
There's Ikara
The next guy is the commander of the Death Commandos, which is Ikara Sung, who is an expert marksman, an acknowledged master of several unarmed combat systems, originating on Terra's Asian mainland in the late 18th century.
Also,
so
he studied Marquis du Sade.
Yeah.
And basically based his tortures on his writings.
God, he must be really kinky.
Some guy named Yaquinto.
Yaquinto, yeah.
Gabriel, come on, we gotta go.
Oh God, yeah. And then we get the maps.
These are the worlds they have. There's not a ton, thankfully. They have some good-looking flags, and we could talk about them a bit. But like, they don't actually go into the death cult because it's not important in this time of period.
Curiosity, Adam, as somebody that was angry at the clans for being fuck-ups, and like you said, you like Liao, and it's like, what makes you rage from the clans compared to the batshittery that is Liao exactly?
I've read because there's enough organs in Liao's structure that makes sense and is actually competent. Like, I'm just skimming all these worlds. I'm sorry, guys, but it's like 3 hours, so.
Yeah, we're past 3 hours.
I figured we're almost done, too, so I figured we're going to wrap it up here pretty soon.
Yeah, so we're actually, because it's just the worlds, I am wrapping here. Let me get your beautiful avatars because I didn't know you were going to be here.
Don't. Like, literally, I literally popped in for a second.
Randall was here for a while, though, so.
I'm still listening in.
So, you mentioned the clans. I can go very quickly into it because it's getting late and I'm sleepy as fuck. I've been tired all day. But, see, with House Liao, they have one issue and a couple of issues. An influx of slaves, which is stupid. That's really stupid. And their leadership, which is kind of insane. But its internal structures, there is enough there that it doesn't feel like a joke. And there's actual competence there as well.
Like, you can see how this planet...
The reason I screamed at the clans is they nearly lost to a bunch of piss-poor miners on the fringe of fringes, despite having the best military, bar none, because they were the last of the fucking elite army this elite standing army that they fucking had. They nearly
Yeah.
lost to that. They don't ever come off as competent to me.
There's a reason why a lot of people really
See,
do not like the clans.
House Liao, they're insane megalomaniacs. But I know for a fact that the reason they're not dead is they have the best logistics support in the fucking out of all of them. They actually have dedicated supply teams. They have entire planetary guards. There's a reason, and they're very quick to organize that. They have a competence in their thing, despite their incompetence, and they lose because of their incompetence. They don't feel like they're handed a win because the plot fucking demands it.
Well, not
Okay.
yet. Later on.
Later on, yes, but at least
this
in this
point-
phase. And that's
At
not
this
even
point, they're
saying I
probably
like
good.
House Liao the most. Easily, that's still the Free Worlds League, man.
Yeah.
Like, even
I-
more
I-
than the Federated Sons, which are interesting but kind of boring, other than they have some, like, internal tensions with, like, one of their border marcher guys going to go to war with them soon.
Yeah. And again, that's covered in the books.
But yeah, as a whole, clans, I know that they go into details with them later, and FASA does put effort into it, but as a whole, they don't feel like they should. They don't feel like an elite branch. They feel like moronic retards like SM Sterling's Draka, who win mainly just because the plot needs them to. Yes, they have advanced technology, but that's more because they didn't nuke themselves to the Stone Age. They didn't advance shit. Not really.
Yeah, and the Capellans, they got, admittedly 200 years later, they managed to actually get some technology back.
And that's another thing. The Capellans, despite at their worst, still actually able to innovate. They're led by crazy paranoid idiots who will randomly disappear you if you don't seem loyal enough. But they also reward progress, competence, and success. Clanners don't do that. Clanners just, I have the big dick because I Mungo bring my 3 boys to Batchal, and I win against man who uses Poodoo mechs. They're literally grugmen who have like fucking nuclear jackhammers versus a dude with a stick. It's not fair. It's genuinely not fair in the sense that there's no way, and if they had similar tech levels, they would get slapped so fucking hard.
Yeah, that's actually one of the points of like the jihad is that one of the things that they mention about the jihad is that the word of Blake basically was about to match the clans, and then they threw it all the fuck away.
Candace, mother of one of the greatest pilots in Romano, Thuggy cult, just the cult, and the mother of the Mary Zoo. Yeah, I don't know any of that, so, you know.
Yeah, that's later on.
If
I
House
don't know if
Liao
we'll
turns
cover
into
that.
garbage, I might scream at them too, you know.
They kind of end up getting away with way much more shit than they should.
Okay, then I'm gonna scream at the plot for allowing them to do that without getting destroyed.
Admittedly, this is after Hans Davian basically took out half the fucking Capellan Confederation in one swoop during the Fourth Succession War. Remember at the wedding?
Translation. They needed
They
bullshit.
realized they needed that sort of bullshit, otherwise they wouldn't be a faction anymore.
Well, that's their damn fault.
Yeah, it is. It's still really funny. The
actual solution should have just had something hilarious, like the Capellans managed to bullshit, like in coercion with the whole concordance they had. They should have done some really amazing bullshit, like that massive thrust in there. Well, no, like with that massive thrust in their territory. I don't know how the borders look, but like they get one of their Capellan buddies to essentially turn that giant conqueror of half their shit into a massive fucking encirclement.
That's not too inaccurate to what happens. Essentially, it's called the Operation Guerrero. This is way later.
So
it's like
what
50
you're
years
saying
after.
is the writers thought of this, so it's not a complete asspull like what you tried to say it was. So
it's more of a complete
viewers,
asshole that they get. It's more of a complete asshole of what happens after Guerrero. That because Guerrero is admittedly like the Capellans have been seeding a bunch of insurgencies on the planets that they'd lost, and then when they got
it's
the
not
chance,
really seeding if they actually genuinely believe the bullshit though.
Yeah, and then when they get the chance, they launch an operation with the support of the Free Worlds League. Why it happens is a bullshit excuse, but the actual operation itself makes sense.
Well, I mean,
The
I can think
problem
of
is,
something for Merrick to say fuck Davy. He does it because he knows that if the Capellans fall, he's next probably.
well, at this point, it's because his son got cloned by the son of Hans Davian to keep the weapons flowing to fight the clanners, and there's also
That's not
the
why.
Steiners are in, and it's
They're saying retarded. You're saying retarded shit, and the writers are retarded, but no.
yeah.
My reason makes a lot more sense. If they go, I'm probably next, other than maybe
Well,
Kurita.
at this point, the Federated Commonwealth had already formed, aka the merging of the
Yeah,
Federated
he
Sons and
knows,
the
and he
Lyrans.
hates House Steiner. All Merrick does. So they don't want because while they hate the Capellans a lot, if they die, he's probably next.
that is true.
Because Hans's wife will just yell at him to kill him until he does.
Hans died at this point, actually.
It doesn't matter. His children.
But yeah, he had a heart attack because it turns out the Capellans had arranged
I don't know any of
marriage.
this. It doesn't matter. There's an actual
matter.
reason.
None of this matters.
None of this matters. None of this matters at all. But yeah, okay, so
Himbo Victor.
Himbo. Oh god, we're not going to talk about how Victor somehow is like Battletech's greatest himbo. I am
Stone
not
or
lying.
Victor
He's an
Davis?
amazing military commander and an absolute fucking retard at basically everything else. It's kind of fantastic.
So what you're saying is they hired Kronk from the Emperor's New Groove to lead their army.
He's like Kronk if Kronk was a manlet. Victor is noted as being incredibly short. It's really funny.
By all accounts, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If you're wondering, this
like,
book is decent, viewers. I think it's only decent. It's not as interesting as the other two, but that's just because it is very dense and can be summarized as, and then this
there
war
was a
happened.
lot. Yeah.
And then this war happened.
May you live in interesting times indeed, because those interesting times are full of fucking nukes. Now, I want to do a slight diversion though, because I need to finish this bit with Victor. The man basically like completely cucked himself. Then
the man who was
gets
cucked
yellow
to death.
Sort of. He is the poster boy for like I am the pure saint of all that's good, and like yeah, I might have assassinated a guy assassinated, but like he killed my mom, so like that makes some sense. And like oh like all this other stuff happened, and you know it's like oh yeah, but like that makes sense for Victor, and then he joins Comstar to abdicate his stuff because of political shenanigans and tries to marry the princess.
Needed it to happen.
Yeah, and tries to marry like the princess of the Draconis Combine because he's got a horrible case of yellow fever and he just can't stop himself.
Is it really yellow fever if they're both yellow?
Oh.
No, this is Victor Steiner Davian who's
Victor Steiner Davian. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know any of this, so it's just kind of.
Look, like let me put it like this: there's like a fucking decade's worth of novels about this character. There's a lot of stuff. It's all nerds. You know, it's nerds an excuse for like the writers realize the Federated Commonwealth existing kind of ruins the game. We need to get rid of it. So that his sister becomes an evil bastard bitch that destroys everything because she hates her brother for some reason.
You know what would have been smarter? Is if, I don't know, Victor died and she was there, but then like allegedly there was an illegitimate son he had. That was a Capellan plot or something.
Oh god, are we gonna bring up the fact that the Catholic Church cloned Hans again?
No. I just came up with a semi-reasonable idea. They have like a kind of plausible, this man, you know, had an illegitimate kid or two.
It's literally a Capellan clone plot or some shit. Like
it doesn't have to be clones, you mongo. It just
that's the Battletech excuse for everything. It was a clone.
It's a fucking clone.
Just have some kid that they like kind of looks like related to Victor. There you go. And that's why they split because let's say the sons decide in a fit of stupidity because they're being economically strangled by the Steiner, you know, by all the Steiner houses. Like, fuck it, we're backing the kid. And his sister's like, what the fuck? There you
No, I
go.
plotted
That's how
the
you
death of my
split.
brother for a reason, and I also want to fuck my brother, but this isn't really explored until later in the Dark Age for some reason, because the writers had an
We're
obsession
ignoring
with
that part.
incest.
We're writing her as not retarded evil. There you go. There you go. That's how you split it up if you need to.
Oh my god.
It's or alternatively, have him go out like the fucking Camerons, where they're all dead. There you go. All
Oh my
Davians
god.
dead.
The best thing I can say about the weird ass take that BattleTech kind of goes through when Stackpole got really into Japanese culture is that at the very least we had a scene where Victor the manlet is fighting like a 7-foot tall elemental with a katana. They have a
Oh,
fucking
fuck.
katana duel to solve the clan invasions.
You say that, but I'm just envisioning this elemental like holding, like the long arm, just holding his head away from them. Yeah.
Oh man,
I don't care. I don't care how much fan fiction you write about how good he is at war. It's like watching Yoda jump around like he's on ketamine to fight fucking
That's how
Palpatine.
Victor won. He took ketamine. You heard it here, folks. The secret to Victor Steiner Davian's success, he was just on K the entire time. It explains so much.
But no, like I
yes,
said,
attack the clans I must, because of more ketamine I must obtain.
the earlier Liao stuff I actually really like, but the later stuff, it sounds like the setting gets a gajillion times more retarded and garbage.
It gets very messy.
Messy,
part
garbage, and mentally feeble. I'm not gonna
Well, isn't
lie.
that just the clans in general?
You know, that
the
makes
clans,
a lot of sense if you think about it. It's actually a clan. Actually, what happened is there was a clan plot to replace all of the leaders with clones, but it succeeded.
Okay, that I will take that explanation for why the jihad happened. Is that the Blakis discovered that the entire Inner Sphere's leadership has been replaced by clan clones.
And that's why
That's
all
a
those
much
stupid
more
things
logical
happened.
reason than the one that they give.
Yeah, and that
for the
explains all
jihad.
their dumb decisions too.
It also explains why the Republic of the Sphere happened. It explains why the Word of Blake did what they did. It explains why the clans all murdered each other because they suddenly realized, oh shit, our plot's been found out. What do we do, guys? And then the Wars of Reaving happened.
Well, no, what happened was the clan that what was the clan that started the Reaving by killing all the other ones? Was it the Vipers?
Steel Viper.
It was a Steel Viper plot, and then the other clans figured it out and basically called them out for dishonored tactics or something.
And now it's on like Donkey Kong and Clan Space. It's just
I
like
I saved the jihad by making
you saved the jihad by making it both simultaneously less and more retarded. Like I enjoy the jihad for the tech that it added. I enjoy the jihad for some of the interesting ideas
Translation,
that it had.
he likes it because his models have bigger stats that go brrrr.
No, it's because there's like some really cool like things that they added, like, oh yeah, there's shields you can put on your mech now, like a physical shield, so you can have like a mech with a sword and a shield, which is kind of cool.
It's still the toys. It's the toys.
It's
fuck
you, I'm a wargamer. Come on. You're talking about the guy that artistically designs mechs in his free time sometimes, because I'm like,
case
this
in
is
point,
a really cool
the
mech.
horrible no good mech knight. So actually, if you're still here, let me remember to do something I almost forget always to do. I'm going to give a glorious link to our Discord to anyone who's not been there before. I think everyone has, sadly, but for those of you who catch us in the late, it'll be in the chat, and I'll also link it after the stream. Well, actually, when I wake up tomorrow.
Come join and have fun.
Yeah, come join, have fun. See what I drank before all of this.
Yeah, it was a good rice vodka.
Rice vodka of all things, and it's actually really smooth.
9 out of 10
I would recommend
would genocide 5/5 of the perfect machinist cult again.
Yeah.
Here's the Discord link, and I think I'll leave us because it's almost exactly 3.5 hours, which I think is. Think about it like this: we gave House Liao the exact same courtesy we did the other houses.
Yeah, we gave it its respect. It's also that we take like about an hour per 50 pages sometimes.
Well, this like it was just, and then there was this war. It's not
And
our
then
fault in this case.
but yeah, and part of it was also we did go off on our little distractions. But hey,
We
like
did
that's what
have
you're
to
here for.
explain how you can blow up a mech like 50 times bigger than you just with a single pew pew, which is funny.
Because that's hilarious, and it's Battletech. There's a reason why there's rules for dumping ammunition. In
because
case
it's a panic move that works a lot.
yeah, it's sort of a joke among old Battletech fans back in the old days, where it's literally like first turn with a Warhammer, I'm dumping my machine gun ammunition. Okay.
So yeah, before it becomes like a 5-hour stream of how I don't know aliens ruled the Earth, let's end it here. Good night, everyone.
Goodbye.